Rini's going to be coming momentito here.
She's in.
Good job.
Okay.
As soon as he sees us. Okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Select Board meeting for August 31st, 2021. It's 6 o'clock, and we will open the meeting by saying the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. All right. Thanks, everybody. Welcome to the meeting tonight. Anybody have any words of wisdom or announcements or anything to share with anybody offhand?
I do want to share the Southampton Housing Authority is holding their community meeting Wednesday, September 22nd from 6:30 to 8:30. It's a virtual meeting, and all of the information is on these amazing flyers that are going out throughout the town. You can find it, and it'll also be posted on the website.
Okay.
So look out for that information.
All right. And again, just everybody be sure we're speaking as good as we can to these mics with all this crazy barriers that we've got here, okay, so that everybody can hear. So that's great. So that's for the, is that for the housing production plan?
Yes, yes it is. We're looking
okay.
for community comments.
Great. All right. That sounds good. Any other things? I know I was asked if I might just announce that the Lions Club is having their chicken barbecue down at Conant Park on September 18th, and tickets are available for $18. It's always a good event, lots of good food, so find somebody from the Lions Club, or I believe it's online where you can phone in to somebody to get a ticket. And I think they're also available at the Easthampton Savings Bank, if I'm not mistaken, here in town. So hope to see a few of you there. Anything else?
Well,
Okay. Good. If not, all right. We don't have any public hearings or presentations tonight, so let's start with our newest thought of doing the open time for the public. Do we have anybody that would like to say anything? Kind of empty tonight? Okay. All right. So I believe we have our main focus tonight, to start with anyway, is the interviews for the two finalist candidates for the accountant position, which we're very fortunate to have them be here tonight and do that in person. And we didn't have the first one scheduled till 6:15, so we might start off with a couple of quickie things down the agenda, if you don't mind, once we move this podium back out of the way here. Just careful of that cord.
can we have a conversation about are we all going
The
to ask
process?
questions?
Yes,
And,
yeah, I was going to do that. So, John, I'm gonna talk about the process while you're playing handyman up there. Okay, so we have basically a list of 10 questions. This would be the same questions for each candidate. And what we're going to do is everybody will end up asking 2 questions, and we're going to go in order. I'm going to go to my right first. So question 1, Francine. Question 2, John. Question 3, Rini. Question 4, Joy. Question 5, myself. Question 6, Francine. 7, John. 8, Rini. 9, Joy. And 10 and the 11 I'll take up at the end, okay? So basically, the idea is we'll go down, everybody will ask a question, come back, ask the other 5 questions. We'll probably have maybe 4 to 5 minutes probably in between interviews, just to collect our thoughts and keep jotting some notes. You've got some spaces there to write some notes and your immediate thoughts after the interview. But then we'll go into interview 2 and kind of do the same process, same questions. And then after that, we will open up for general impressions of strengths and weaknesses, things that you'd like to talk about the candidates in terms of your impressions about their abilities for the job. And my goal is to actually be able to vote and select a candidate this evening. Okay. Sound good? Any questions on that? Yes.
It's only select board asking questions, correct?
Yes. Yep. So we've got the questions ahead of us, and I think everybody's seen a draft of those, so I think we're okay. Do we have our first candidate yet or not?
We do.
We do. Okay, well,
Would you like me to bring him in?
sure. Why don't we get started? We'll get a head start. Why not? If he's ready. I mean, if he wants a few minutes, that's fine, but if he's ready. So I think we can just basically just jot down notes. I've personally found later on that scoring doesn't really do as much, 1 to 3 or 1 to 5. It doesn't really get you
Yeah.
too far.
Yeah.
So I think people's general impressions and reactions to the questions, I think, is as valid as anything else. Okay?
Sounds good to me.
All right.
Thank you to John and Francine for all.
Yes, for all the preliminary interviews and,
There's a
Yeah, ju-
lot.
Just to mention, we had originally put forward 4 names. We'll discuss that later.
yeah,
Okay,
Okay.
that's fine.
sure.
We don't, yeah, we've got our top 2. so.
Yes.
Good.
This is Bradley Axon.
Okay.
Hi, how
Hi.
do you do?
Hi, Bradley, how are you? Good. Welcome to Southampton.
Ourselves when we ask the questions?
Huh?
Should we just introduce ourselves?
Yes, I was going to do that, yeah.
Okay.
So welcome to Southampton again. I guess you've been here at least once to meet with a couple of us. So I'm Chris Fowles. I'm the chair of the Select Board. And I think you know these two, but I'll let them introduce themselves again.
Hi, Bradley, Francine Tishman, we met. Good to see you.
Bradley, good to see you again. John Lumbra, Vice Chair.
Okay.
Maureen Groden. Hi.
Hi, Bradley. I'm Joy Piper.
Okay, good. Well, welcome again, and we're glad that you're in the top tier of our candidates. And so tonight, I think Ed has already kind of explained the process. We're going to go through, and each one of us is going to ask a question. So we'll kind of go down the road and ask questions. We've got about 10 questions, so we'll go down the road and then go back again. Okay, so let me open it up with Francine. And
Okay.
again, John, maybe your mic, yeah, just everybody have your mics close by. Thanks. Okay,
Yes.
Francine.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Bradley, please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you like to be considered for the town accountant position here in Southampton.
I grew up in an accounting family. Both my parents and my 2 older sisters are accountants. So I've been around accounting all my life, and they convinced me to pursue a career in accounting. I achieved a Bachelor's of Science in Accounting and moved on to Robert Half Account House, who placed me at a health insurance company. And I've been there ever since for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Touched all parts of accounting, mostly been closed, but also accounts payable. And recently, I've been touching the accounts receivable checks and organizing them for the accounts receivable analyst and recently cash, other things. But I'm at a point in my career where I have the experience in accounting, but looking for a new challenge. Municipal job sounds interesting. I like the community aspects, the working with people, budgets. That's something that interests me, mostly because just recently my sister and mother joined the Westfield Taxpayers Association. I've been mentioning from Westfield.
Mhm.
And I go here and they talk to me about water and people paying bills, talk about enterprise accounts, type of budget things. I found it very interesting and I like talking to them about it. So I saw this job and said, wow, that's a good opportunity for me.
Mm-hmm.
Why not?
Excuse me, I think Tammy's trying to say thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a mic not on?
Oh, is the mic on yet?
As far as I know.
That's a good question. Sorry about that.
Can you tap it and see if it
No.
doesn't look like
Doesn't
it?
sound
Oh dear.
I double check the cords.
Maybe Ed, switch the plug with the podium plug.
Yep, sorry, I didn't
Thank you.
see you if you were signaling, Tammy, I'm sorry. Sorry. Sorry.
Yep.
There we go.
That's
Here we
working.
go, that's better.
Yeah.
Now it's working. Okay.
Okay. Do you want to summarize that,
Okay.
Francie? Or what do we want to do? Just keep on moving?
Our decision.
Keep on moving?
Keep moving.
Okay,
It's my vote.
Perfect.
thank you.
Okay, we'll keep on moving.
All
Okay,
right.
And
good, all right, so thanks for that. So just, we'll move on to question 2. John?
Sure. Bradley, what are some of the skills you bring that you believe would make you a good match for the job in Southampton? And is this a position that you feel that you can grow in professionally, learn additional skills, and expand your current accounting knowledge?
I think my biggest skills are my organization and scheduling skills. I'm on time, I plan out the day, make sure I'm meeting deadlines. I think another big skill is I enjoy talking with my coworkers. I try to make their lives as easy as possible. So with emails, I try to give them as context as I can when I'm replying to them or sending them an email to someone else. And yes, I do see growth if I do get this job. It's a big challenge. It's a municipal job. It's not a corporate accounting. It's something completely different. It's not month-end close every month. It's once a year, twice a year, and it's much different. And I learn a lot. And another skill I have is I work with other departments at my current job, and I make a relationship with people outside of the departments, and they see me as a representative of the department, and they come to me first, and I then direct the questions accordingly. So I do enjoy working with other departments, helping them out with getting a report or talking about budgets.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, okay. Rini?
Hi, can you describe a specific work experience that you've had when your organizational and interpersonal skills have contributed to a successful outcome? And conversely, can you describe a time where you wish you could have done things differently?
Conflict where I put my skills to the test and, yeah, all right. Let me think.
You take your
We
time.
have abandoned property issues where we send out letters about outstanding checks, and members get back to us to tell us that, yes, we do owe them the money. And I think I've really grown at being better at talking on the phone. So there was one member named Jessica, I know her name, she called me so many times that she was very upset about this process, that it took so long. So my skills of calming her down and telling her every day that, yes, we have her letter back and we're going to reissue the check as soon as possible. I assure her, and we go along with that. And the problem was resolved because of my ability to calm her down, and she didn't escalate the problem. So a problem where I wish, what was the second part of that question?
It was, conversely, a time when you wish you could have done things differently. Maybe things didn't turn out quite as well as you had wanted to, and maybe you would have done things differently.
There's just issues with timing and deadlines that my department would face due to being understaffed or people being absent or being overworked. And it really comes down to communication that I wish my department had at certain times, that people get to tell others that they're stressed, or just give a heads up of when they need help. And I learned that I need to reach out to people when I need help. I can't just put it all on myself, buckle down, try to do it myself. I need to reach out to other people at certain times. So communication is a huge key to success.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bradley, given that you have not worked with municipal accounting, how would you go about improving your knowledge and training in regards to the area of municipal accounting field?
Of course, I would listen to the person in charge of me, my manager, and learn as much as I can. there's supplemental materials, standard operating procedures, the documentation I can study, I would reach out to that first, asking the questions, going along. In my free time, I might watch a video about municipal accounting. I might just find a book and read. I would want to get my head in the right position to be successful and help everyone.
Thank you.
Okay. And which of your previous experiences, although we know that they were not in municipal government, do you feel most closely resembles what you would be doing in this position? And how does that resemble that?
I've touched all parts of accounting and mostly the close, but I did touch accounts payables, paying bills, looking at invoices, talking to people. But I also, every month, I'm assigned certain journal accounts that I'm in charge of that I need to explain why it's over budget, why it's gone up in the trend. So I would research and explain that, oh, there was a $50,000 invoice that went in March, and that's why it went so above budget. I had the experience of working with other departments, getting them the help they need, making relationships outside my department.
Okay.
And also for supervising, I know this is assistant accountant that I would work with. I did supervise a temporary employee to take over accounts payable for a short, maybe 3 weeks. I supervised him, taught him everything about accounts payable, let him work and ask me questions. Later on, I had to train a coworker to take over parts of my job with claims checks. So I taught her everything. I made standard operating procedures for her. Had big meetings with her, walked her through, and was always there for her when she needed help with questions. Yes.
Okay, very good, thanks. Okay, Francie?
Okay. All right, Bradley. As the town accountant, how do you envision interacting with other department heads, and what steps would you take to make sure that your peers also follow departmental policies and procedures in regards to budgeting and expenditures?
So I think the best form of communication is in person. So I would want to talk to them in person as much as possible. But email etiquette, being very clear what they need to do and what they need from me, I would accept. And I would stress what I need from them, and I would give them everything they need. And when they step out of line, or not step out of line, but make a mistake, I would be as polite and showing them why it's wrong and showing them how they can correct it. I want to talk to them in person about that, not just send an email saying, fix this. I would explain, maybe send an email with the documents they need, but go to them in person and walk them through what they need.
Okay. Thank you.
For this question, I'm going to read a hypothetical scenario followed by a follow-up question. So the scenario is the town's auditing firm gives you a notice of comment that, as also noted in prior years in the annual audit, the town contracts with an outside company to bill and collect for ambulance services. The outside company maintains the database and reports amounts billed, collected, and owed to the town. Most payments, but not all, for the services are received by the company, who periodically, but not routinely, wire the funds collected directly into the town bank account. Based on that scenario, what are your initial thoughts on how to enhance internal controls? And I can repeat the scenario if you want.
Yes, he was interrupted, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll just repeat the question, and then I'll read the scenario again for you, okay? So based on what I'm about to read, what are your initial thoughts on how to enhance internal controls? The town's auditing firm gives you a notice of comment that, as also noted in prior years, the town contracts with an outside company to bill and collect for ambulance services. The outside company maintains the database and reports amounts billed, collected, and owed to the town. Most payments, but not all, for the services are received by the company who periodically, but not routinely, wire the funds collected directly into the town bank account?
I would first talk to my manager to see what their thoughts are, but I think we would want to work with that outside vendor to make it consistent how we're getting the money, so it's not confusing that we get it somewhere and then it's in other places. We want to get it, it's direct bank deposit, we want just that, or we want a check. I think it would be worth using it with multiple types of payments, if that's what I'm interpreting of that scenario. So I would think I would also want to communicate with that outside vendor and see what they could do for us. That's a recurring problem. We would want to work with them. I would work with my manager and try to correct this problem.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Hi there. So we believe that the town accountant position is central in town government. It requires familiarity with laws and regulations, attention to detail, organizational skills, confidentiality, and adherence to operational deadlines. I know you spoke a little bit about this, but please share your skills and abilities in these areas.
I do have great scheduling. I make big schedules internally, like for my own personal use, but like in my department, we would have a big file of what we need to do every day of the month, and we'd update that accordingly. So I make my notes. I have my own files of what I need to do. In terms of detail orientation, yes, I do look at everything. I don't want to overlook things, because one little problem can become something bigger later on. So, what was this?
Confidentiality and deadlines.
Deadlines, yes, I'm try to get on time, maybe even a day or two before the deadline. I don't want to procrastinate. I want to get there. Confidentiality, I'm not a big talker, so I don't spread secrets. You know, take that seriously. I don't want to jeopardize anything or make myself look bad, make others look bad, so keep what I need to myself.
Thank you.
Okay. Joy.
Bradley, what do you envision as the responsibility of the town accountant in planning and managing the town's annual budget?
I would think I would be aware of all the department's budgets and keep an eye on what's happening, and maybe once or twice a month send them each department a report showing their progress, and maybe give them advice of how to stick to that budget or explain why they're over budget. I would just communicate monthly or bi-monthly, whatever, tell them what they need to know, and be there for any questions they have.
Thank you.
Okay. So I think, as you know, Bradley, this is a 4-day, 30-hour-a-week position at the present time. It may be, who knows, if at a later date the town offices decided to be open 5 days or work later on one night a week, would that be any kind of an issue for you? Would that pose a problem?
I'm used to working 40 hours a week, Monday through Friday, usually over 48 hours a week, because I usually, at my current rate, I'm working 7:20 in the morning to 4:50 at night, and then sometimes on Fridays I get off early. But I'm used to long work, long hours, a lot of work to do, over 120 journal entries every month. So I'm not scared of work, I'm not scared of working overtime, and I don't take a lot of time off. In the 4 years and 4 months I've been at my company, I'm going to have 3 days taken off. I had a snow day when I was temporary, and I wasn't aware that everyone else went in the office. I had a jury duty day, which I still went in the office during lunchtime and did some work. And this upcoming Friday, I'm traveling for a wedding. So this is my 3 days off. I have plenty of energy to work. I'm not afraid to work.
Okay. All right. So I think that's pretty much all the questions that we had to ask. Do you have any questions for any of us about the job or just the environment in general of working here in Town Hall? Anything?
Excited for this chance, and I'm very grateful that you all brought me here.
Okay. All right. Good. all set with everybody else? Yeah?
Yeah, thanks so
Okay.
much, Bradley.
Good, thanks,
you.
Bradley. Appreciate you coming in. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so let's just gather a couple minutes and just jot your notes and stuff, and we won't do any discussion now. We'll wait
Can
until.
I just make a recommendation that we put the set of questions on the table?
Yeah, that's a,
Well, my only concern,
All right,
we
no,
we
yeah, no,
Can't do
okay.
it
didn't
now.
provide
We-
that to
We're not
Bradley.
being fair.
Because I think,
Yes,
I think he couldn't hear it all or went too fast, and for anybody,
yeah.
myself
Yeah.
included.
Yeah.
I agree we should have thought of
Okay,
that. but-
yeah, we should have had
Yep.
that.
As well
Have
as
to be
get the mic
consistent, though.
organized. Yeah, but I think we have to be consistent, unfortunately.
Yep, I agree.
For that regard. So just a thought for the future, Ed, since you missed that we give the written questions to them so that they can see rather than having to hear us through our masks as well. But we won't do it now for the second one because we want to be consistent, obviously. But our mic is working okay? Yeah,
Seems
as far as we know?
Hopefully with the adjustment, I think it is.
Okay.
Okay.
And just hopefully after tonight, Chris, we won't have to do this for another 20 years.
You think?
I'm just-
Yeah, we're not,
I don't want to hear about next time.
Yeah, really. So just let's take a few minutes. We weren't expecting the other person for another 15 minutes or so, but they might be early too. So just let's take a couple minutes and just jot your notes if you didn't finish doing what you were doing. We'll keep an eye out for candidate number 2. Is our person there? Not yet. All right. Then let's, how about if we do a couple of things in the interim here? Could we do the town administrator report, maybe?
I can do that.
Get
Sure.
that off our list. We'll wait
Sure.
till we have everybody.
Want to let you know that the contractor, HM Nunes and Sons, for the construction of the 2 new pickleball courts in Cornham Park contacted me today, and they are going to be able to perform the construction work sooner than they had originally thought. So we will be scheduling a pre-construction meeting with them sometime between September 9th and the 16th, depending on everyone's availability.
Ed, does that mean that they anticipate the project completing that much sooner, or no, still the same completion time?
Depending on if they're, held back for availability of some of the construction materials, and the biggest one that is, from my understanding right now from all projects, is fence posts and fencing. But other than that, I would anticipate if they're able to start the project early, that they're also going to complete it earlier than I think we had put a December 1st deadline on it, so.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. But after we have our pre-construction meeting and actually get a work schedule, I can give you all a better idea of that. Our interim town accountant, Regina Gillis, has given her notice to take another position. Her last day will be September 9th. She has offered to do some overlap training with her successors when she is available, either on Friday evenings or on a weekend day during the daytime. And with all the necessary steps and the timelines that accompany them for the acquisition of the right-of-way from the Pioneer Valley Railroad for the Greenway, I am reaching out to the state to see if it would be possible to have a grant extension for the $100,000 Mass Trails grant we received for this to go into a second fiscal year. So I'll let you know how that goes also.
And what's the due date currently?
June 30th, 2022. And then lastly, the assessor's office will be open on Tuesdays from 8:30 a.m. to 4 p.m. and also on Wednesdays from 8:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. while they are looking to fill the principal assessor vacancy. However, they are looking at expanding these office hours to be a little bit longer currently. And then upcoming, we have select board meetings in September scheduled for the 14th and the 28th.
Yeah, Rini, go ahead.
Ed, what was the end date of the current contract with the Regina?
We don't have a contract with.
No, but we did approve a 12-week.
Yeah, it was
Yes, it would have been, this would have gone to September 14th.
And is there any obligation in terms of keeping that deadline?
No, she has given 2 weeks' notice, which, we were obliged to give her also, so I'd say we're good there.
Okay.
And the one thing you may want to consider, if she's going to leave on the 9th, later in the meeting at some point, maybe under any other business, you may want to consider appointing myself again as interim town accountant, just for signing abilities. Sometime from September 9th, maybe to the end of September, until we have our new town accountant on board. And hopefully we'll get them on board before the end of September, but, I can always resign the position at that point when they become appointed.
And hopefully we'll have the assistant accountant on board before that, right?
Absolutely.
So, but that person would not have necessary signing authorities?
They would have signing authority also to act in absence of the town accountant.
We did a vote to have you have signing authority. Did that end?
It did.
Okay, so it was time limited, okay.
Okay, well, maybe remind us as we get toward the end of things, because we don't forget it. Just while we're on the mass trails, I know you were reaching out to the state too about the other mass trails with COMCOM. Did they send the contract on that? Do you know anything about that yet?
I will have to follow up. I called their office to our contact last Friday and left a voice message asking about that, and I have not heard back. So I'm not sure if maybe Amanda's on vacation or not. So I will call the office again, and I'll also shoot her an email.
Okay. So I think CONCOM is hoping to sign that contract too for their Mass Trails grant, which they had not seen the last I knew. And then just lastly, on my favorite, sidewalk cemetery, anything moving on that in terms of contracting a person so we can get that one moving?
I'm still working on the bid documents. The state is working, the Mass DOT is reached the 25% level for the design that Stantec has done for our permit to work there. Generally, the work with the contractor cannot begin until that's finalized. So Richard from Stantec is going to reach out to them to, see if at least it's all right with them for us to be out to bid and for Mass DOT to attend what would be a pre-bid conference meeting.
That would be our district people at DOT?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean, this was supposed to be an expedited process, so I hope they
Yeah.
don't backtrack now and make it complicated for us. One would hope. Okay. All right, assuming.
Can I just ask, Ed, I know the Board of Assessors is really responsible for recruiting, but do you have any information to update us about where they might be in the process?
Liaison, so I'm happy to do that in the report.
Okay,
Yeah, we'll get to the
Fine.
select board reports, yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, okay. So with that, why don't we, assuming we don't have anybody yet, let's take a stab at select board reports. So Rini, why don't you go ahead with that?
Well, mine
intro?
are easy because the COA is meeting tomorrow at 4 o'clock. They haven't met since we met. The CPC hasn't met. They are meeting September 8th at 5 o'clock. I'm planning to set up a Public Safety Committee meeting in September. And then the Board of Assessors have met multiple times, a lot during the day, so I haven't as much been able to attend. But we have a couple of PCFs tonight to increase Janine Domina's hours so that the hours of the office can be open longer. So there's an emergency PCF and also a interim one. And they are, had an executive session meeting, which I did not attend, and they're discussing a number of opportunities, not only to get a permanent principal assessor, but also an interim plan to have somebody come in. In the meantime, they are handling the business of the office. I'm just impressed by this particular board and their expertise. I think that they're taking care of the business for now, and I think we'll probably hear something sooner rather than later.
Great, good to hear. Okay,
Thank you.
all right, well, we're down at this end. Joy, would you like to go with your reports?
Sure. Conservation
And be sure to
Commission.
speak into the mic.
Oh,
please.
sorry.
Yep.
Conservation Commission met on August 16th. They still are looking for people to help with trail cleanups and marking property boundaries on the trails, and looking to get signage up on the different trails. So if you are interested in volunteering, please reach out to the Conservation Commission. Most of it was just regular business in regards to checking in on the grant project at Manhan Meadows. There was an NOI meeting for Manhan that week. I'm not sure, there will be an update next week or the week after that in regards to that. And they did have a question in regards to some monies from the treasurer's report. There was $5,000 owed from the town taking down the sign on Strong Road that was owed to Southampton Conservation Commission. So they wanted to get a report on that, but we might wait till we get the accountant in.
That was for when the trees were taken down?
Yeah, when the trees were taken
Yeah,
down.
that
yeah.
money was, I remember seeing that money was transferred into
Right.
their account.
I think they may have paid it from a different account from when I told them to pay it from.
Oh.
But I will check on that.
Okay, yeah,
Thank
because they had, that needs to be accounted for. And that was all in regards to the Conservation Commission. Their next meeting is actually September 20th. Planning Board met. They actually will be changing, they were working with one consultant who last week was their last meeting. We will be looking at hiring a different consultant to work on the bylaws and just working through those. So I'm pretty excited actually to take a look at those.
These are the zoning bylaws?
The zoning bylaws, yes, the zoning bylaws. There was a lot of discussions in regards to the master plan and working that in with the bylaws and certain projects and the storm water permits within the bylaws and discussions with the MS4 project. So if you have any questions about that, Planning Board is discussing lid and stormwater application, or the stormwater and how it relates to the bylaws. And Housing Authority met as well. They're very busy. They have their next meeting is September 21st to discuss the community meeting on September 22nd. And they're really excited to get community comments in regards to the housing production plan. So everyone who's interested, please go find the Zoom link. It'll be posted on the town website and on different flyers around town. We would love to hear their input. And that was it.
Okay, very good.
Can I ask a question? How often, I know you just joined this, so you may not know this, but how often are the planning boards bylaws, the zoning bylaws updated? Do you know? I mean, is this a cyclic thing? Is that why they're doing it now?
I think it's been going on. The review of them has been happening for over a year or so. It's been happening for a while. Chunks of it have happened, and then COVID made it stop, and, but it's been a while since they've been updated.
Do they similarly have to be approved by town meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
It's the same process that town bylaws need for approval, except for a zoning bylaw would have to pass town meeting by a 2/3 vote rather than a regular town bylaw by a majority vote.
And when they are hiring a consultant to do this, is this an attorney? Or is this somebody that is an expert on zoning bylaws? And do they then have to run them by our attorney? You know?
I believe that the previous consultant referred us to this person who was previously a city planner.
Okay.
So they have expertise in city planning and engineering, and are very familiar. They're retired, they just retired, so they're very familiar with,
I think it's more of an engineering background
Yeah.
from what I know, not
Yes.
necessarily a legal background.
engineering and understanding
But that's just a little.
how a city, municipality with municipal experience.
And does this come out of the planning board budget, which is not that much, like, isn't it like $500 or something? How much is the planning board budget? Is it like 500 or 5,000? I forget.
I'd have to go take
But is
a
any
look at that.
consultants they hire, do they have a revolving account
They've got a
too?
revolving fund.
They have a
that they're-
revolving
Okay.
fund, so.
That's how they use some of their money, I believe, is to
I believe,
hire a
yeah.
consultant through the revolving fund
Okay, all
that
right.
planning board
That was
manages.
my understanding, that it was.
Yeah.
But then when they're basically, I will say, semi-finalized, they will have to be reviewed by town council. And that will have a cost to the legal budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
At some point, doesn't have to be now, but at some point, I'd like to have a discussion about how we access our attorney, for what purposes, and do other committees and other people have the right to go right to the attorney, or is it all under the auspices of the
It's-
select board?
It's all under the auspices of the select board, so anybody that wants to.
So the planning board would have to
use it.
come to us and say, we want these bylaws approved before the next town meeting, and then the process would be that we would approve it, and then it would go to the attorney.
Correct.
They'd have to review it, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, all right. I got a high sign from Judy out there, so I think, or do you have long reports, short reports?
I would say mine is more longer than short.
Longer than
so.
short, all right. Then I'm going to propose we come back to the reports. Let's have our second candidate.
I agree.
Kind of a
Yeah, good idea.
up and down meeting here, but I think we'll just take the timing as it goes.
That makes
okay?
sense.
So do the same order.
Yeah,
Okay.
and we just have to make mindful that they're not reading these, so we need to read
Yeah.
them a
Yeah.
little more slowly
Yeah, good point.
so that they can follow the question.
Yeah, they were not given the questions ahead of time. I guess that's something we could have done too. In terms of improving our systems. Mhm.
This is Scott Dean.
Okay, very good. Hi, Scott, how are you? Good, good. Welcome to Southampton and Southampton's Town Hall, and hopefully a microphone that works. Anyway, I am Chris Fowles, Chairman of the Select Board, and I believe you met a couple of our colleagues, but I'll let everybody reintroduce themselves and introduce the new folks as well. So go ahead.
Hi, Scott. Francine Tishman. At the time we met, we weren't wearing masks. We were much more recognizable to one another. Okay.
Scott, thanks for coming back. John Lumber, Vice Chair.
I'm Maureen Groden, hi.
Hi, I'm Joy Piper.
Good, well, welcome, and we appreciate your being available tonight to go through with this round of interviews. We have about 10 questions for you, and what we thought we would do is just go down one by one, everybody ask a question and go back through it again. And so we'll do that, and I'm going to start with Francine.
Okay. All right, Scott. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be considered for the town accountant position here in Southampton.
So I live in Westfield, grew up in Springfield, so I'm from the area. I graduated from Elms College and then progressed through my career from a job doing AP payroll stuff at a nursery business in Suffield, moved down to sort of the Boston area. And my last job was at Pro Ampac, which is in Westfield, a big manufacturing company. I left there in March for various reasons, but the main was to be more with my family. I was working a lot of hours, 50 to 60 hours a week, and then when my kids started asking me why am I working holidays and why on vacation am I working, it got to a point where I thought about my life and my career. I'm at a point now where, I want a job that's stable, but and then when I saw the town of Southampton job came up, I knew that I had the qualifications for the job, and I felt like it was the right fit for myself and my family, the hours-wise, the commitment-wise, that, was a good part in my life and my career to kind of take this opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. What are some of the skills you bring that you believe would make you a good match for the job in Southampton? And is this a position that you feel that you can grow in professionally, learn additional skills, and expand your current accounting knowledge?
So, I'm very detail-oriented, hardworking. So I think those are the big, my main skills were in accounting. You have to have attention to detail, make sure all your accounts are correct, all your budgets are in line. I think the biggest area, and I mentioned this in the first interview, was learning all the municipal rules and stuff. So I think that's where where I can grow, and where I'll need to grow. If I get this position, I'll need to continue to learn all those rules, and I know they're ever changing, so to keep up with all the rules and functions of the town.
Okay.
Good. Rita?
Yeah, can you describe a work experience that you had when your organizational and interpersonal skills have contributed to a successful outcome? And conversely, can you describe a time when you wish you would have done things differently?
So at my last company, there was a couple of projects I think I was involved in that were successful. One of my main, when I first took on, was learning our new system. They were upgrading the accounting system. I took that on. I learned it from front end to back end, all the modules of the accounting system, and I became the leader of that. I traveled to various plants we had, and I trained other accounting departments. Another one was in our AP, we implemented a non-paperless approval system. So when I first got there was 50 filing cabinets that had all previous invoices, and we implemented where through IT they developed a system where we could send out invoices for approval. They came back, everything was scanned into the system, so that way we didn't have filing cabinets anymore. I think, the biggest, what I wish I could have done more towards the end of my career when I got promoted to controller, I wish I spoke up more to get the extra training I needed before my boss retired, and just to tell them more on what was going on and how, the 50 to 60 hour work weeks weren't contributing health-wise to myself and to my family. That was kind of my biggest regret there.
Okay. Go ahead.
Hi, Scott. Given that you have not worked with municipal accounting, how would you go about improving your knowledge and training in the municipal accounting field?
So, I mean, I would go online, research. I do have contacts, so Matt Barnes, who heads up Westfield, I coach Little League with him. I've actually been in communication with him about, how it is, what's the best way to go about things. So I think, the biggest thing will be going online, taking, if there's courses out there, taking courses, and then reaching out to people and contacts and, people that might have some knowledge already to help me get through the initial stages and then from there continue to grow.
Thank you.
Okay. And Scott, through your various experiences, though they have not been in municipal government, what do you feel most closely resembles this position and why or how?
I mean, I think all the roles I've had kind of will help with this role. I mean, when I first started out of college to when I currently have my position, I've had all aspects of accounting from AP to AR to payroll to general ledgers to budgeting to capital expenditures. So I think throughout my career I've grown and I've learned many facets of accounting that will help me in this position. I've also managed people. So like my last position, I managed 5 different employees and some were at various sites. So I think that will allow me to step into this role.
Okay, thank you. Francine?
Okay. As the town accountant, how do you envision interacting with the other department heads? And what steps would you take to make sure that your peers also follow departmental policies and procedures in regards to budgeting and expenditures?
So for me, my first steps would be when I come in to kind of get to know everyone. I'm a pretty open person. I'm pretty personable. I believe in team from growing up playing sports to now coaching my kids. I think, it's important to build those relationships, have trust in each other. So I think building those relationships first, and then from there, you work together as a team to kind of, with budgeting and, sharing of information and kind of getting with them to see what kind of information they get now and if there's anything else that they could use or benefit from in the future that I can maybe provide.
Okay, and John?
Okay, so this one, I'm going to tell you the question first, and then I'm going to read a hypothetical scenario, right? So the question is, what are your initial thoughts on how to enhance internal controls? Okay. So the hypothetical scenario, the town's auditing firm gives you a notice of comment that, as also noted in prior years, the town contracts with an outside company to bill and collect for ambulance services. The outside company maintains the database and reports amounts billed, collected, and owed to the town. Most payments, but not all, for the services are received by the company, who periodically, but not routinely, wire funds collected directly into the town's bank account. What are your initial thoughts on how to enhance internal controls?
So I think, from hearing that, I think, we have to work together, first off, learning the back end of the systems and see if there's anything that we can do to either bring that in-house or if there's controls around reporting-wise, make sure we're getting the correct information so we can match up, when we get the payments or the payments are made at, it's the correct amounts and we're not missing anything, that they're not, holding back funds or anything. So I think it's learning the systems first and then the controls around how we're getting reporting to make sure that we're collecting what we should be.
Okay.
Okay, and Rini?
We believe that the town accountant position is central in town government. It requires familiarity with laws and regulations, attention to detail, organizational skills, confidentiality, and adherence to operational deadlines. Can you share your skills and abilities in this area, in these areas? I think you've mentioned a few of them, but.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think with accounting, the attention to detail is, number one. The budgets are important, so the attention to detail of all the bills and, what we're billing out, to make sure we're in line with budget or under budget. The other skills,
Yeah, familiarity with laws and regulations, organizational skills, confidentiality, and operational deadlines.
So the learning the laws and stuff, I think, I know that's the biggest thing stepping into this role is to get up to speed on all those laws, and that's, I'm willing to learn all those. Deadlines, I mentioned in my first interview, I think it's important. So as people are coming to me, I usually come into a day, knowing kind of what's on the schedule, and if people come to me and say, oh, we need this report, I will go to them and ask them, when is it, do they need it right now? So I can fit that into the schedule. So I think those are the main, reasons, I think I could come up with those skills.
Okay, enjoy.
What do you envision as the responsibility of the town accountant in planning and managing the town's annual budget?
So I think, first is, get up to speed on everything that's happened in the past, and then, build those relationships with each of the departments, so that way we can kind of cover, the budget as it is right now, and then kind of dive into all the little things that are going into those expenses, so we can analyze and see if there's, other ways to, different vendors, anything that can improve those budgets. But I think first would be kind of see how the process has gone in the past, and then kind of reevaluate to see what can be done differently, if there's better, options, and then, like I mentioned, building those relationships with each of those department heads so we're all on the same page.
Thank you.
Okay, good. So I think, as you probably knew through the previous interview, this is basically a 4-day-a-week, 30-hour per week position. If at a later date we decide that the town offices might be open for 5 days, or we might end up having evening meetings or something like that, how would this be an issue for you? Would this?
No, that wouldn't be an issue. I mean, I'm used to, like I said, working 5 days a week, and evening meetings wouldn't be an issue to attend those meetings.
Okay. So I think that's pretty much everybody's questions. Do you have some questions for us?
I think, from my first interview, I had a couple kind of questions. So maybe you guys, what do you guys see the biggest challenges for someone coming into this role? And I know Francine and John answered on the first interviews. I didn't know if everyone kind of agreed on it, but I just didn't know what your take on what you think the biggest challenges would be.
Sure. All right. Would anybody like to take that? You guys have.
We already did.
You already did. So I'll go to this side if anybody would like to. But
I think the biggest challenge, I think you hit on it on one of your answers actually, was looking at the past accounting. We're a small town, and a lot has been going on, and we haven't had an accountant for a while. So I think that you hit on that. That's going to be a really important thing. And so, yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that.
maybe one. Yeah, ready?
I think probably the, the municipal side, just the laws, regulations, all the state requirements and things like that. I mean, that's probably going to be the big learning curve. But also, it's just, we're like a lot of other small towns that don't get enough money from the state. We're constantly trying to balance a budget and, rob Peter to pay Paul kind of a thing. And the last several years have been really challenging. So we actually have a committee that's forming to sort of look at, what can we do to increase revenue, manage expense, regionalize services, all of that. So I just think the budget crisis, not to mention COVID and all the other challenges that everybody's had. It's just, but it's a beautiful town, and I always say that. I'm happy I landed here. So it's a nice little town, but there's challenges.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think just to add, I think we have decided amongst ourselves at Select Board that the financial health of the town is really the key driver for us this year in terms of our priorities and what we want to really focus on. And it's been hard not having a full-time accountant and an assistant accountant. Those have been filled in, but, the accountant position has been filled, obviously, over the past few months, but certainly not as many hours as is needed. There is no doubt that the hours that have been allocated do not meet the need for the job that has been done thus far. And so there's probably a fair amount of catch-up. There's things that have probably got to go back and, be corrected, or who knows. But I mean, there's I think a lot of demands and a lot of people probably wanting to know their own department status. And so I think your comment in terms of, sort of finding out and reaching out to the departments to find out what's going okay for them and how they might see something improve would be a story there too. But I think a lot of the departments just are not quite sure how they're spending their money yet. They don't feel like they're getting reports adequately, and we too at Select Board. So we have a challenge with our income and our revenue reports, and just trying to get things timely. So I think timeliness and deadlines and all those kinds of things are really important to all of us, probably. So, okay. Anything else offhand? If not, all right. Well, thank you, Scott. Appreciate you coming in tonight. All right.
Thank you very much.
Good enough.
Nice meeting you guys.
Nice
meeting you
too.
too. Thank you.
Okay, let's take just a second or two here. Everybody kind of ready, or yet need another minute or two? Watch out time, which is good. Everybody else set? Okay. So my thought, I guess, and I'm open to suggestions, my thought was going to be to just go down candidate by candidate rather than question by question, not necessarily doing it laterally, but going candidate by candidate and getting first thoughts and impressions on that. So let's take Bradley, and who would like to start with some just overview, general impressions, comments, thoughts about his answers, etc. Who would like to begin? Anybody offhand? Since you guys have seen him before, maybe we'll start down at this end. Anybody? Rini or Joy? Yeah, Joy, would you like to?
I thought he was really, you can tell he seems very smart, lots of potential. And yeah, I mean, I thought he would be someone who would be great to work with. I'm just unsure about him in this, like, more of a department head position.
I didn't hear the last thing you said. Say that again?
I'm not confident in putting him in a department head position.
Thanks.
I think he was very likable, and I think that I can tell that he's a very smart. I can tell that he's a very hard worker. I can tell that he would be very detail-oriented, and he would work really hard to do this job well. I think he lacks experience in, well, municipal accounting like they both do, but even more so, like, very little supervisory experience, and I think that the learning curve would be a little steep.
Okay. Either Janet, Francine or John?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the benefit of seeing him twice. And in his first interview, and I'll bring this up, I mean, he gave very precise answers, he described situations in which because things were disorganized, he would develop a system in order to put not just the accounting department, but everybody else on a schedule and a track, so that everything was, coming together, so that timeliness and accuracy, was a benefit of the system that he created. So I was very impressed with that, and also with his dedication, which I think came out again today.
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, my comments. So I think Bradley's a very strong candidate. Of the two that we have, I agree with Maureen. It would be great to have somebody that has, X number of years of municipal experience, but that's not what we have. There is one other piece of information that we had at that committee level that was part of the resume. So perhaps Ed could share what we already know with the three of you on their assessments that was part of the Indeed process, just so you guys have the same information.
Sure. As far as the assessment, the accounting and bookkeeping assessments that Indeed did as part of the process of moving the candidates through to us is Bradley had the highest assessment you can have in both accounting and bookkeeping, which was level 5. Scott's was weaker in the direct accounting field. I believe he came out at a level, I'd have to go back and double check, but I believe it was fair. It was the second category. So it was, in hands-on accounting ability, it was less.
And just to follow up, which I would interpret, this is my interpretation, so, just for what it's worth, I would interpret those that Bradley was extremely hands-on, and that Dean Scott probably had a bigger support staff. So not that he didn't have the knowledge of it all, but acting in a controller capacity,
Right.
probably didn't have to be as hands-on with journal entries, so to speak. I just share that for what it's worth.
I think when you supervise that many people, I think that's probably true.
Yeah, it's at a different level, yeah, okay. All right, yeah, and I think, my first impressions, it's interesting that he's coming from people didn't hear that in the audience, so I think our mic wasn't on, but his very first answer, coming from an accounting family, his parents and both of his sisters apparently are in the accounting field, as well as that sort of propelled him to jump into that area as well. He does not have years and years of experience, but he definitely has a level of interest. I think his organizational and planning skills sounded quite strong. He sounded like he would be somebody who would adhere to deadlines. I think the one thing that came through for me probably is kind of how he would work with people. He seemed to be one to maybe shy away from email and written communications unless it was necessary to put out here's how you have to do X, but he seemed to be more one-on-one in terms of wanting to talk to the person and understand why they were having problems with their budget or something that they were turning in, and try to resolve that before it escalated into something else. So he seemed to be somebody who wanted to, he didn't really mention the word teamwork, I don't think, but he sounded like he was a team player to me in all of that. I did like the notion of him, I think it was back on the question that Joy asked about the responsibility of the town accountant in planning and managing the budget. He said he wanted to be aware of all the department budgets, and he would issue a report at least monthly to all the department heads so that they would know the status of their budget and go over it and ask what was going on. If things were overspent, he would spend time and find out what was happening and ask if they were having issues, and maybe give them some ideas about how they could stay within budget. I thought that was a pretty solid answer, as well as talking on the hypothetical, just talking to the outside vendor and trying to figure out how they could be more consistent in terms of how they're dealing with us directly, not only us trying to solve the problem, but involving the vendor themselves. So those are points that stood out for me as I listened to him anyway. Okay.
I did like that he recalled the 3 days off that he took.
Yeah, right.
And very precise, he
It's
knew
like-
exactly like why he took them off. If we had asked him the dates, he probably would have remembered, I feel like. He's very detail oriented.
He would be somebody we need to make take his vacation, however.
Yeah.
I think that's probably true. So, okay, all right, okay, so some thoughts on Scott? And let's just do the same way we go here. I mean, why not?
I like that he was very upfront about work-life balance. I think that's a good sign when someone's able to just articulate that. He also seemed to be, he talked about having the importance of having budgets align. I liked his answer a little bit better when he talked about what he would do to get up to speed. Online courses, research, mentors, people, contacts. I think that he has a bigger understanding about what the curve is, actually. Like I said, he had supervised, more people. He would start by getting to know everyone, teamwork, relationships. And number 8, when we asked about the different skills, he did say accounting, detail-oriented, number 1, but didn't really say too much about the other things, I thought. Yeah, I think that he, has a little bit more experience, and I think both of them could do the job.
Okay.
With a lot of mentorship and online and connection with mass, municipal accounting support.
Right.
I think they both could do this job.
Yep, Joy?
Yeah, I thought that he was very qualified. I liked how he brought up the new accounting system at his previous job that he learned from front to back, and being able to make a paper system into a paperless system. I thought that was very helpful knowledge to have. I liked how he talked about cultivating trusting work relationships with the different departments. I think that's going to be very important. And, just his plan on working on the current budget and getting up to speed, and understanding that looking at the past is going to be just as important as looking at the current, and how to making a plan to move forward. When he was talking about the annual budget. Was it the annual budget? And I thought he answered the hypothetical pretty well. It was a confusing hypothetical. It was like one of my law school exams. But I thought that he had a pretty good answer in regards to talking about bringing the service in-house. What do we need to fix in regards to the system and the controls for reporting? I thought that was a well-thought-out answer.
Okay. Yeah. Francie?
Yeah, I thought his answers gave me the idea that he was proactive, the fact that he would analyze and look into expenditures and perhaps even try to find other ways or other vendors that might be able to do some of the work, or, from which we would either buy products or services. I thought those were strong, proactive skills of somebody who's watching the bottom line, which is important, obviously, to this town.
Okay, and John?
Yeah, no, I agree with Scott. I think he's another strong candidate. I think definitely these two. I don't necessarily see how the town could go wrong with either one of them. I think they both have pluses and minuses, but I do get the sense from Scott that he's been in the accounting department. I mean, he spent 14 years at the same company, working his way up through the accounting field, up to controller. So I give anybody a lot of credit for that these days, staying at the same employer for that long period of time. And, yeah, so again, I think both of them are strong candidates.
Yeah. No, and I basically, agree with what everybody's been saying here, too. I think we do have a strong candidate here. I guess was curious in terms of the level of hands-on work that he's done. He started that way for a couple of years as an accountant by his resume, and then moved on up pretty quickly into the comptroller manager role. So kind of in a way, I'm wondering if this would be, I know he wants sort of a break from what he was saying. That's the impression I got, that he wanted to have a less stressful job from, or at least the long hours that he's been putting in. And I don't know whether this would meet his needs on that, his assumptions of what the job will entail. He did talk about, doing some online learning and taking courses and so forth. So I think that would obviously have to be part of the plan that we would work out with anybody that's hired on. He does sound like he's detail-oriented. He's obviously been hardworking if he's been working as many hours a week as he said. I guess a couple answers. I don't think he was as specific. I don't know that he really answered the question. I think he was kind of surface level, not really vague, but just didn't get down into what I was hoping to hear on a couple questions. But other than that, I think we've got two good candidates. What would be the druthers? Are we ready to think about putting forth a motion on anyone, nominating anyone of the two that you would like to offer the position to? Are we ready to do
Just
that? We want more discussion?
Well, just point of order.
Yeah.
Is it a motion or is it a ballot where we just name our first choice? And if there's a majority,
That's a good idea.
I'm not clear.
Okay. I guess, I'm not sure. We've done it, we could do a ballot. Who's your first choice? Is that acceptable, Ed? Is that the proper way to do this?
It's like ranked choice voting.
Yeah,
Ranked choice voting?
right. You can do it either way, and in the past, I believe it's been done with a nomination, but you can do it either way.
I see.
And
Okay.
I'm happy to go either way. I just want to understand the process
yeah.
you'd like to use.
No, it's a valid point. I think last time, I don't remember, but we might have had a little scorecard for what that was worth. But even then, I don't remember that we necessarily totaled up scores. I'm not remembering that anyway for the one we did before. So, well, why don't we do first choice? Shall we
Can I
do
just
that?
ask a couple questions
Yeah.
first?
Yeah.
So I do remember we did a scoring,
Did we?
and we did
Okay.
add up, so
Okay.
on some level that was helpful. But I also wanted to, I think I know the answer to this question, but I just wanted to put it out there. Both of these candidates have agreed to the salary or for the general range of the position, correct?
That was in the
Those-
letter.
That would have been part of the letter of conditions, correct?
Okay.
It
And
has been
both,
stipulated.
and both of these candidates have put forth references? Have they provided references yet?
I would have to, whoever the top choice is, I would do a background check, a reference check, and they would also have to successfully negotiate a contract.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I don't think there were references on
No,
their
There-
resumes
There weren't,
themselves.
so I'd have to garner those.
So
from
unless
them.
they came in through Indeed separately, okay. All right.
And last question, I was just looking at both their resumes, and they both have bachelor's degrees, which is great. Are there, like, certifications for accounting? I didn't see any sort of distinctions. And I'm just wondering if either one of them, I mean, they would have put it on their resume, I guess, so I guess that is there, though, an opportunity to have a distinction in terms of certified accountant or something?
Accounting
Go ahead if
certificate.
you
I
want to.
could, so in the private sector where they both are, the only certification is a CPA.
Okay.
On the municipal side, there would be certification through the Town Accountant City Auditor Association, but you can only earn that if you're actively in one of those seats.
And does it also, if you know, require a certain amount of time in the field? Or
On
once,
the municipal side,
yeah, like so many hours, or is it just once you're in that position, you can just,
my assumption would be yes, and that's only based on the fact that a treasurer or collector has to sit through 3 years' worth of classes
Yeah.
in order to take the exam.
okay. So not really in the private.
Okay, so with that in mind, unless there's other discussion, could we,
So
yeah?
the only other, well, I don't know if it's worthwhile reading one of the letters into the, are those letters public now? The offer letters, once they signed them, did those letters become public?
Yes.
Are they cover letters?
Well, it might help to refresh everyone's mind exactly what we put in the two-page letter that they signed,
Okay.
acknowledging everything
Yeah, I
to.
think that'd be great.
Yeah,
I was going to see if I could pull it up quickly in my
Okay.
email.
I know, I can get one in about a minute, I know, right?
Okay.
that would probably be a
And
good
then
idea.
the only other information that I would like to share, unless Francine stops me, is that from the committee level, the way we interviewed them is the ranking that came out of the committee.
Uh-huh.
And it was a very close when we lined up everybody. So we had like 7 applicants.
Yep.
We put forward 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 appeared tonight.
Oh, okay, good. Okay, that's good to
Well,
know.
Or, go ahead, Francine.
No, I think 1 and 2 because we hadn't agreed yet, but
Yeah.
they were not I wouldn't say they were my first and second. One of them was. But we had 2 other candidates, one of whom accepted another position
Yeah.
in the interim, and another one just removed herself from consideration because of, personal concerns. So she took herself out. But I rated both of those very well myself.
Was that the
Highlight.
2 people?
Mhm.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
But we did see a candidate tonight that I put as number 1, who was still in the running here,
Oh,
in my estimation. I don't want to give the impression that my first 2 removed are no longer part of this process,
Okay, got it.
okay?
All right, sort of clear.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see what we got here. Yeah.
So this is the letter that went out to the candidates that they had to sign and acknowledge the conditions of. On behalf of the town of Southampton, I am pleased to inform you that you have been selected to be among the final candidates for the town accountant position. This position will report directly to the town administrator for all day-to-day matters, but will remain an appointment of the select board. Because this is a municipal position appointed by the select board, your final interview will be conducted in public at a select board meeting by the members of that body. In order to schedule you for the final public interview, we must receive your agreement to participate in that format by August 26th. Once you agree, your resume and name will become a matter of public information with home address redacted. Your consent must be received by Thursday, August 26th at 3 p.m. in order to meet the 48-hour open meeting law requirements. Interviews will occur on Tuesday, August 31st, beginning at approximately 6 p.m. A more precise time will be provided as we get closer to the date. Start date. If you are ultimately selected for the position, the anticipated start date is September 20th, 2021. We will confirm that start date once the contingency described in this letter have been satisfied. Compensation and benefits. Your compensation and benefits package will consist of the following: bi-weekly salary up to $1,904, 30 hours per week at $31.75 per hour. Massachusetts Certified Government Accountant training is required with certification within 3 years from appointment. Once obtained, an annual stipend of $1,000 is additionally available. The town also provides a comprehensive benefits program should you elect to participate for you and your eligible dependents, which begins on the first of the month following your start date of employment. You will be entitled to vacation days, personal and sick days. All time off will be administered in accordance with the town's Personnel Policies and Procedures Board as set forth in their manual. This is a contract position, and the final salary and benefits will be negotiated with the Select Board, and a contract agreement will be executed. Pre-employment screening. As with all newly hired employees, this offer is contingent upon your satisfactory completion of a pre-employment background verification. If selected, we will be in touch with you to provide you additional information and instructions if the need arises. Other conditions. As a condition of employment, you may need to execute a confidentiality and non-disclosure agreement or other necessary employment agreements. If you elect to move forward on the terms and conditions stated above, we ask that you sign this letter below and return it to me no later than Thursday, August 26th by 3 p.m. If we have not received a response by that date, this offer will be null and void. We are excited about the possibility of you joining our team and believe the position will offer you the challenges and responsibilities you desire. Should you have any questions regarding the above items, please feel free to contact me at your convenience.
Thanks, Ed. All right. Good. Okay. So, with that, any questions about what was in the letter? Any further questions or discussion? All right. So I think let's proceed with the notion of everybody with their first choice candidates and just go down the line. Who would like to start?
I'll go first.
Okay, go for it.
Bradley?
Francine?
Bradley?
Rini?
Well, I think Scott probably edged him, even though
To Mike, sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. I think that Scott probably edged him out in terms of experience.
Sorry?
I agree with Maureen. I think that Scott has more of the needed experience.
Okay. All right, so we're at 2 and 2, huh? I get to be the tiebreaker?
But can I ask
Yeah.
mean, I wish I could have more conversation about it, because I know they got to talk to them more, and we only
Yeah,
had
I
the
know.
one interview, so now I have so many more questions, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we can hear a little bit more.
Sure, I mean,
yeah.
yeah,
Well, and we're just, this is like a straw poll, right?
yeah.
So it might, before we do further, it might be good to understand where you're leaning, Chris.
Yeah, yeah.
If you
Yeah.
Yeah.
don't want to abstain.
I think I'm leaning toward Bradley, based on my reaction to his answers. I think they both have a lot to learn, and yes, Scott does have more experience, but I think Bradley is one who can really grow in the job. So that would be my thought.
What questions do you have, Joy?
Is your vote based on, I mean, you don't have to tell me specifically, but between the two candidates, do you think that Bradley would grow into the job? Is that he more of a long-term choice for
Like,
the town?
yeah, so this is just my opinion, right? And so I'll just say that, this is my thoughts on the whole process. I think the two are extremely close, right, and comparables. Yes, I think Scott has a longer term in the accounting field. Bradley has 4 years versus Scott's 14 years. Bradley didn't mention where he worked, but on his resume, you can see where it is. That's not a stress-free corporation that he's at. In the interviews that we had, Francine alluded to this, he went into greater detail about why he was brought into that organization and the specific tasks that he was given, which he then took on and developed this whole Excel sheet that the entire department uses now to keep their task on track, which now permits them to close the month on the 5th of the month every cycle and streamed out that office. I think Scott, you pointed this out before, Joy, that, or somebody on that side did, about rolling out the new management software and going on and doing that. Having been someone who's done that before, that's a huge task too. So, I kind of make those two equal. But all things being equal, when I look at the two, I see, in my view, that Bradley would be he edges them out on fitting in to the work atmosphere and the quality within the town hall. And I see him, for a reason I can't explain, but I see Bradley long-term I could see him coming in, growing in this position as years go on and we straighten out the finances and we expand because the town is expanding. I see Bradley as somebody who will, if given the opportunity, will grow with us and probably, you know, my wishful thinking, I see him retiring from the job. But again, I can't explain it, that's just my view.
My concern, and again, they are both qualified for the position, my concern about Scott is that he's had a higher level position, he's had a number of subordinates, therefore he's moved away from a lot of the detail work and the groundwork that really has to be done. We don't have a tremendous depth of staff here. So the person has to come in who's going to, be the head of the department, but also be the worker. And I can see that more in Bradley than I do in Scott.
I'd like to ask a question, if I can ask Ed. You were a mayor, you came in and then you went from, being at a different level and then having two positions that involved town administrator in small towns. And so you did have to jump into, a number of things at a day-to-day level. And I'm just wondering if, this person is going to report to you, and I'm just wondering, would you be comfortable with either one of these candidates?
I'd be comfortable with either one. If you're asking me if I have an opinion or a recommendation, I would give the edge to Bradley. Okay. And I'll tell you why. In my assessment from, not only assessment through Indeed, but from what I've seen from his answers, from some of his specificness, I believe Bradley is an absolutely brilliant individual, number one. Number two, I've carried something with me for a while that I kind of learned in the business trait. And when I made the move after I got my master's in finance, from a small hardware enterprise to walking into, Aetna with a building with 5,000 individuals, the individual that hired me, and he asked me to return the favor someday, was that he saw in me desire when he interviewed me for that position and to do well. I actually did that a couple of times when I was mayor too, and it worked out. It's hard to pick the time when that's right, when you've got experience or you've got somebody maybe doesn't have the same amount of experience, but if you see the spark, and I saw it in Bradley, I think he's got a huge desire. They both have got the learning curve in learning municipal laws, rules, and regulations, so I'll put them on an even keel. Yes, Scott has some more business experience, but I really believe if you give Bradley the opportunity, he's going to excel in this position. So.
Yeah, thank you. I think
You're welcome.
Okay.
I do agree with you. I think that he definitely had the desire, and I do think he's incredibly smart.
Okay, with all that said, do we want to do a final review? Are we okay with everybody still sticking with their choices? We had 3 Bradleys and 2 Scotts.
Well, I think given what I've heard, I'd like to sort of go along and have sort of as close to a unanimous decision on this, and I'm happy with supporting Bradley as well.
Okay. Joy, any final thoughts? You don't have to change.
No. I do want a unified, vote on this, because I think it is important, and I don't want someone to join the municipal team and think that we're not behind them 100%. I think that's also really important. It sounds like Bradley has a steeper cliff to climb, but that he might just do it faster, that he just is so driven, and that he, the fact that you even referenced him as being brilliant, like that's a huge compliment in my eyes. And I would like to vote for Bradley. I think that if he's gonna be here long-term, if it's projected, and we really think that he's gonna, be devoted to this town like we are, I think that that's the best choice then for Southampton.
Okay, all right. Well, thanks, and I think hearing everybody's comments, I think we have come to a general consensus to offer the position to Bradley Oxkin. Oxkin. It's Okscin. That's got to get my vowels in the right, or my consonants in the right place. Bradley Oxkin. Okay, so I think that would be the charge, Ed. We would,
So I'll make that a motion,
okay.
and that it be subject to the terms and conditions already outlined in the letter,
right?
And the references.
and the reference, subject to reference checks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
background reference checks, and also it is a contract position, so you would have to negotiate a successful contract with the select board.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right.
Okay, so be it. Thank you. All right. Very good. So let us continue with the rest of our select board reports. John, why don't you go ahead, and then I'll go to Francis.
Yes, so, since my last report, neither Capital or Greenway have met, and I know I'm sharing Greenway with Chris. Finance did meet, but I was unable to attend the finance meeting because I was attending the Hampshire Regional School Committee meeting. There was a lively meeting, as always, that ran 4 hours and 15 minutes in length in person. But I think the biggest thing that came out of that I would share, because a lot of it, while it's all very important, but I think the high levels here, is the vaccination rates within the school. So I think everyone is familiar now, which happened the day after this meeting, where the Commissioner of Education has been granted certain emergency powers from the DESI board, and that at the middle school and high school level, all children are eligible for the vaccine based on their age. So within our student population up there, we currently, as of Monday, are at 59.57%. Our staff within the building is at 94.03, which gives us a blend of 65.17. And Stephanie Foss will be coordinating a vaccine clinic at Hampshire Regional, and in hopes to get the school up over that 80% threshold before October 1st. And there will also be a public meeting on September 9th at 5 p.m. via Zoom, that I know just from talking that our local Board of Health will be listening, where Stephanie Foss and the superintendent are going to explain the no-cost option of testing on the spot for all 5 schools within the district, and what that process is going to be, and parents would need to opt in. So it's the first step in the education process to hopefully build the vaccine rates, and if successful, in theory, that'll have, since Southampton makes up 56% of that school, the more vaccines we can get there will improve the vaccine rates within our town itself. So, and then PPP board did meet. We went over some items that are going to come up later on the agenda, just procedural wise, and we agreed that by the next meeting, we would each individually review the first 50 pages of the proposed changes to the procedures, policies, bylaws book. That'll put us halfway through. So I'm envisioning this to be a 3 to 4 month process. And that's it.
Okay.
Can I ask a question in regards to the school committee meeting? Why the 80% threshold? Why not 100? What is it about the 80% number?
The guidance that came from the commissioner was that at the middle school and higher, mask will stay in place until you can cross the threshold of 80% vaccination. Once you cross that, only the unvaccinated would be required to wear a mask.
Okay, all right, thank you. And also, no cost testing within the school during school or?
That's going to be part of what we're going to find out, whether, hey, my child was potentially exposed on Saturday, can they get tested on Monday at the school? So there'll be 3 levels of testing. One would be if there's an exposure, you get tested, and then there would be random testing, and then the last would be the pool testing. And parents have to consent to all 3 to start with, so that in the event, they're anticipating that if there's an escalation, an outbreak, then they're going to ramp up the level of testing to try to identify it sooner rather than later within the schools. And the governor has committed to pay 100% of the funds required to it, which includes additional staff if needed.
As in additional nurses or
It could be,
additional?
or certified testers,
Okay,
and that'll all come out on September 9th at 5 o'clock. And it's going to be a Zoom meeting.
okay, thank you for clarifying.
Thanks, John.
Could I ask you a question? On the PQB, you're reading the personnel, the document there. What is the process, and do employees have any input?
So my understanding on this is when my first meeting I attended, there was a 3-page laundry list of changes. So I asked that the clerk take that back and redline the existing document so that, at least for my benefit, I could see exactly where the changes are. And my understanding, all those changes have come over the past 3 or 4 years where people just recommended these changes should be made. And so the first step is to redline the document, which created the 100-page document when you do the track changes in it. And now we're going to meet as a group to go through. Some of them make perfect sense. Eliminate select men and insert select board. But there are other suggestions in there that remove what I feel are possibly some checks and balances that need to stay. So we need, as a group, need to have that conversation. Ultimately, it's the majority of the committee's opinion right now that once that's done, they would hold a public hearing for input. And at the conclusion of that, the document would be forwarded to the select board for approval.
So the select board has the final approval of that document?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's an awful lot of information that some of it's contractual. I mean, there's this, I mean, I guess we'll just have to wait to see, but that's a big responsibility, and that's a lot of decision-making without employee input.
Correct. Yeah, and it might, I don't disagree with you, and it might, I'm only one of the 5 voices there, but it may be that maybe we need to break this up in chunks. Like,
Yeah,
the grammar or the changes in titles,
exactly.
that's an easy one that
Yeah.
everybody will agree on, but the more complex and
Yeah,
potential increases in the number of sick days allowed,
right.
there has to be deeper
Policy level things would be,
conversations on those, yeah.
a different level of
And
discussion.
at what point were, employees were hired under certain understandings, and at what point is it okay to just change those?
I haven't seen,
guess I'm
I haven't
concerned, I'll be
done
honest
a
with you.
full review, but I didn't see any change in there that took away a benefit. There are enhancements.
Okay, well, one thing that we've talked about repeatedly, just, is the ability to not have prorated, time after July 1. People leave, they take, we've talked about that is not in the best interest of the town, but that's certainly something that somebody might have taken employment with that understanding. So I guess where's the middle ground there? So I guess we'll just wait to see what happens. When was the last time this was actually updated?
I think it was 2016.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yeah.
not that long ago,
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think we'd have to see whether certain things would be recommended to be grandfathered in, for example,
Yeah.
or,
Right.
what things would take effect going forward
Right.
from, X date. I would assume there has to be a,
And I think that the committee's already done the first step as far as, okay, you've got a laundry list. Put all the changes in the document so we can everyone can see clear as day what you're trying to do,
yeah.
or what the suggestion is, and then take it page by page and
Okay, sounds like a tedious task.
I think there should be employee input.
Yeah, to the extent there can be, so. But again, I guess if they get to that employee, or the public hearing, that would include people that are the employees of the town would be invited to that, right?
Who are residents.
Yeah, but town employees, that are involved in that, though, that affects them, they should be invited to it at some point in time to give their input, I would assume, but. Okay, well, we'll keep us posted on how that goes. All right. Anything else, John?
No.
Okay. All right. Francine?
Okay, thank you. The Norris School Committee met on August 11th, and the purpose of the meeting was to consider a mask-wearing policy for Norris students that was developed by the Hampshire Regional Superintendent based on CDC and state guidelines. At that meeting, the vote was 4-1 in favor of mask wearing for students until I believe it's October 1st, and it'll be looked at and examined again at that point, depending upon the status of COVID in our town and in the county as well. All right. The next meeting I attended was the Zoning Board of Appeals. They met on August 16th to consider a variance for construction of a garage on Palmoy Meadow Road. Due to insufficient information, no decision was reached, and the board scheduled to continue its deliberations on Thursday, September 9th at 5:30. I also participated in the PVPC Regional HR Human Resources Feasibility Study. The group met via Zoom on August 23rd. The participating towns in this study include Chester, Westhampton, and Southampton, and it's projected that we will be joined by Blandford, Chesterfield, and Goshen, as well as Gateway Regional School District as potential additional partners in this process. The attendees representing Westhampton, Chester, and Southampton briefly discussed what their HR needs were at this time, and they include such things as updated and compliant policies, systems and structure, annual performance reviews, morale issues, grievance procedures, onboarding and exiting, training and protocols, and I'm sure the list will continue to go on. What PVPC, since they don't have HR expertise in residence on the PVPC, they are going to issue a targeted request for proposal to hire an HR professional with municipal experience to conduct assessments of town needs in order to identify the resources needed by small towns. And it looks like the likely source of that expertise will be the Employers Association of New England. And then finally, I'm recommending that John Lumbra, a Select Board liaison to the PQB, and the chair of the PQB join the group and participate in the discussion and the upcoming needs assessment. And then that next meeting of this HR feasibility group will be September 8th at 8:30 in the morning, and that's via Zoom. Okay, the next and final one is the Bylaw Review Advisory Committee. And I just wanted to talk about the fact that the committee has posted and is requesting comments on drafts of bylaws that are important to town residents. Those bylaws are soliciting and canvassing as one, nuisance and peace and quiet as another, and building numbering. Those draft bylaws are posted on the town website. The goal is to provide, by posting them, is to provide the people with advance and sufficient access to the draft documents in order to gather comments before finalizing the text. The drafts can be found on the homepage of the town website, which can be accessed by going to www.townofsouthampton.org and following the instructions. Your comments are important to ensuring that the residents are given the opportunity to provide feedback. After reviewing the drafts, please email your comments to bylawreview@townofsouthampton.org by September 15th. We extended the date. The original date was September 10th. You have to use that mechanism to communicate your comments, not Facebook. The only official way is by utilizing the email provided by the town to gather this information. In order to provide another means in addition to the email comments and to elicit other input, the Bylaw Review Advisory Committee has scheduled a public meeting on September 21st at 6:30 p.m. right here in the first floor conference room. At that meeting, additional comments will be gathered, and a summary of all comments received through the email process will be made public. We hope that many of you will take advantage of one or both methods of bringing your thoughts to the committee's attention. The next step in this process requires that the town vote on the final version at a special or annual town meeting before submitting them to the Attorney General for final approval. Upcoming meetings of the Bylaw Review Advisory Committee are scheduled for September 8th and September 15th at 10:30 in the morning here in the first floor conference room. And again, the public meeting is held on September 21st at 6:30 p.m. And I do want to thank Tammy for posting this announcement on the community Facebook page, and Robert Floyd for putting it into town newsletter. It's important we get as much input as possible. Thank you.
Thanks, Francine. And I think, just to add, I think the, if I'm not mistaken, the nuisance, peace and quiet is pretty much a new
Yes.
bylaw, correct?
Yes,
And the soliciting one and the numbering of buildings has been expanded. What we have as a current
Right.
bylaw is really very, very minimal. It's about 3 or 4 sentences. It's not very lengthy.
right.
And so this is a different, expanded version of it, working in conjunction with the police department, building commissioner, et cetera, on the various paragraphs that are in there. So try to take advantage of it one way or another, either by email comment or coming to the meeting. And that will be a first step. And then obviously the committee would have to bring that back before the select board to review before moving forward to thinking about it on the town warrant for a town meeting. Okay? Anything
Yes,
else?
and the attorney, yes.
Yeah.
Thank
Have you thought about having police, the people that have primarily involved, like having police, fire, and Board of Health or Health Department, Health Director representation?
Yeah, it would be the police, the fire, and the building superintendent are the ones who had the most input into
To be at the
this
meeting, you mean, the
process.
public meeting? Yeah.
Yes, the
Yeah.
public hearing, yes.
Yep, yep, that would be good, yep, okay. For me, very few things. As John mentioned, the Greenway Committee has got a meeting started, I believe it's scheduled for September 7th now, at Conant Park at 6:30. The Grant Committee is meeting September 8th via Zoom at 2:30. And the Tech Committee is meeting tomorrow night at 6 o'clock via Zoom. The Tech Committee in particular is going to be looking at issues related to the Community Compact IT grant, which is right before us in terms of a deadline. There's a deadline, the application is open now, or will be open soon, actually. It's not actually open yet, but from September 15th to October 15th is when we would have to put in a grant application for that. And they're looking at a couple of different things, from cybersecurity to potentially revision of software, payroll kinds of things. It's got to be one project. It can't be multiple projects, so it's got to be one project. So they're going to be talking about which ones seem to make the most sense, where we think we can put an argument out there for impact, why it's important, why it would be more efficient, cost-effective, et cetera. So they'll be working on that, hopefully with the grant committee over the next month to get that one put into place. We have had a request, and I think I've passed it on to the school principal at Norris already, for the Safe Routes to School. This is the Signs and Lines program. It was a pretty minimal one. I think I'd mentioned about just doing different pavement markings if that were needed for parking and things like that, but also doing the various things from bicycle rodeos to, you name it, the walk to school day, all of those kinds of activities and events. So they will probably be reaching out again to Eliza, because the deadline, I believe, for that is September 17th. So they might be reaching out to the school to see if we're interested in doing more on the Safe Routes to Schools program. Okay? I think that's it for the Grants Committee at this point in time as well. Yeah, okay.
I'm just
Anything else? Any
wondering,
questions from anybody?
I just have a question. One of the things we've been talking about is the broadband and internet feasibility. Just wondered if you were planning on bringing that up, or if that's on the agenda for tomorrow.
Yeah, the ad hoc tech committee has talked about it. I think what we wanted to do is, based on getting the information from our charter rep in terms of where low broadband locations are around town, to put that out to the tech committee and see what they think in terms of, how worthwhile do they think it would be to try and do something to try and address that? I mean, what kind of things could be done from their limited perspective to see about improving that broadband access around town, and whether that would be appropriate for one of the grant applications that they're, looking at, or whether or not that's got to be something bigger through the whole ARPA fund, I think. Ed, is there, I don't know, anything else on that? I mean,
Our government rep from Charter has acknowledged the receipt of my request and has put in the order for the map for where they currently do offer service in Southampton, which will show us the areas that they don't. And as soon as he's got that, he's going to send it along to me. So I will send it
Okay.
along to you and to the ad hoc tech committee.
yeah, okay, so we won't have it, obviously, for the tech committee tomorrow night, but we should at least have it, hopefully, by our next select board meeting, with a little bit of luck, so we can at least get a sense of what that is, too.
Chris?
Yeah, we would like to certainly focus on some of that, yeah.
So I'm a little confused. So finding out where charter is available within the community, I'm assuming is going to be high, because I don't know if anyone's had the chance to dive into the census data that came out, but according to the Southampton census of 2020, 98.5% of all the homes in Southampton already have internet. How the census picked up on that data, I don't know. So I would expect the entire town to be covered. I thought the purpose of it, and maybe it's just a miswording, but I thought the purpose was to find out where, like, the weak internet connections are, because they may have service, but it's getting
Yeah, no,
chopped up.
yeah,
So
okay.
I don't know.
Yeah, you could be correct in terms of my wording on that. Yes, I think there are definitely households where you think, I mean, even at my place, where I can go, a few feet away from my house, and I lose my connection. So, I mean, it's, I think the level of connection is probably, the level of connectivity is probably what we're talking about.
Even in this building.
Yeah, well, here too, yes. So, yeah, so I guess it's not just, okay, is it at the end of some road that doesn't have it, but, where are the weak points in the level of surface that's being able to be received, I guess. Is that fair in terms
Well,
of?
that'd be tough to do, because that could be your particular equipment rather than the network, so.
If whether they would answer the question, I don't know, Ed, but the question might be is, by pole location, can you tell us the number of complaints that have been received for poor quality? So say the pole out across from 95 Glendale that connects all those houses had 137 complaints during the past year when everybody was Zooming. I would suspect there's a low quality issue out there versus, I don't know. And I don't know if there's, and I'm sure they're not necessarily going to divulge that information if they even had it at their fingertips, but.
Okay. No, those are good points. I mean, just to understand exactly what we're looking for. So we'll have a further discussion probably on that with the charter people and also with the tech people to see what we need to be asking for the right information.
I think that we just need to understand exactly what's going on, and I think the American Rescue Funds are very focused on infrastructure, and I think it's an equity issue also. And I know that when there was a resident that mentioned about he's a professional and he does a lot of work from home and he doesn't have very good service, I was tremendously impressed with Dan LaValle's response. I mean, he basically went, try this, then do this, and then do this, and then do this. And so I think there's lots of levels of this, and I think that we just want to make sure that we can do, I just think the tech committee is a great resource, and if we can understand the problem, if there is one,
Yeah.
it'll help. Then we can figure out how to,
Yep.
provide good service throughout town.
Yep. Okay, good. All right. Okay. I think that's it for reports. Moving on, quarterly reports, we don't have any tonight, but just to remind everybody, you do have a schedule that's been posted. I believe everybody's received an email. The chairs of the various committees, the department heads would have received an email with the schedule for the reports, as well as the content outline, suggested content outline. The first meeting in September 14th, we have asked to have reports from the assessor, the accountant, the treasurer collector, and the finance committee. Given that we don't have an assessor in place, I would extend that invitation to somebody from the Board of Assessors to represent that department. And for September 28th, That would actually be Community Preservation, Conservation Commission, Open Space, and Parks, I believe, are the ones. Okay, so those are the groups that are the first reportees. And again, it's something that we're trying to restart. We had a plan to do it, and we started it a little bit, but never really kept up with it. We're going to try our best to keep up with the schedule that's been posted, and there are some suggested contents for the report so that you can sort of outline yourself and focus yourself in terms of what we would like to hear, and obviously anything beyond that. But take a stab at it, and we'll try to do our best to schedule that early on in the meeting as well, so that we don't have you sitting here until 2 hours later. We'll try to put that somewhere toward the beginning, okay?
Chris, can I ask a point of order? I don't think
Yes.
we did this. Does it have to be?
We're going to come to it because it's down later on under the PCFs as
Okay.
well. Yes,
Okay.
yes, there was a resignation, we'll catch it
Okay.
on the other end. It's on here twice, I believe, so
Okay.
we'll come up to that. Yep, thank you. Old business. So how about where we are with the assistant accountant position? I think you started mentioning something, Ed, if you want to just reiterate that.
Sure. The subcommittee that did the preliminary interviews had identified two candidates that they would like to pursue, and the select board at the last meeting has delegated the authority to me to follow up on that. I have a meeting scheduled tomorrow afternoon with one of those two candidates, and we'll follow up with them, see if they're still definitely, sounds like she's still definitely interested in the position. I will garner the reference information and follow up on the references, and if they check out, we will move forward and make an offer and hire that individual for the assistant accountant position.
Okay. And that would be something on, that would go through PQB as well?
Yes, we
This one?
would fill out a PCF for that
Okay,
and submit it to the PPB, and then it would come back to the select board.
okay. And the next PQB meeting, John, did you tell us, was that, has it been scheduled, or maybe not?
My memory says it's September 16th, if that's a Thursday.
Okay, that'll work. Okay, so, yeah, you're right. Okay, September 16th, right?
Yep.
Okay, so we're kind of in the neighborhood, so we probably wouldn't have it for the next meeting, but for the 20th or 28th.
Yeah.
Or if we could determine, if we wanted to get somebody on board early, maybe we could.
Do an emergency?
I would suggest submitting two, an emergency and a
Yeah,
regular.
I was going to say, just so that we don't waste another 10 days with
Right.
nobody in the position.
And-
Correct.
And possibly lose the candidate.
Right, yeah, so we definitely don't want to lose the candidate if they accept it. Okay, we'll get to that point when we find out what's going on. Good. All right, how about anything in terms of the audit update?
Yes, after the auditing firm came in and did their field work here, they have had some follow-up questions for us, both seeking additional documents and for follow-up on some of the variances that they have found. So we are responding to those questions, and usually, depending on what they're asking, usually we've responded either the same day or the day after. There's a couple that have come up on the enterprise fund that I'll have to get together with Tom Gahn on and respond to them.
Okay. Are we still hoping that we can have a draft report for the 14th, or?
I'm hoping that, but we shall see.
Okay. All right, and everyone should have gotten a copy of the fiscal 18 and fiscal 19 reports for your reading information, okay?
Thank you.
So that can give you some background anyway, and we'll be probably exploring those further as we get the.
You might find the rhetorical question in those documents.
Could be, could be. All right, good. All right, where are we with the Route 10 Bridge water main update?
From my understanding, they did the tie into Former Road, at Former Road last week, and they did a little bit with it again yesterday, so they should be at the point where everything is completed, except for coming back later in the fall and doing the secondary or finish coat of the asphalt.
Have all the iron sheets been pulled up, or are they still?
They were still there the other day, so.
They're up.
They're gone.
Did they pick them up today?
Oh, yeah.
Or yesterday? Good.
Okay, good. That had been a bit of a
Yep.
complaint by a few people I'd seen.
Yeah,
on that.
there were a few that were remaining.
Right at the corner of
Right
Fulmer
down by
Road.
the dam, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, good. So that sounds like that's moving along pretty well. Okay, how about East Street Bridge?
East Street Bridge is moving along. We had the preliminary meeting for Concom out there about a week ago, and the general contractor is finalizing their agreement with one of two environmental consultants because of the fact of the
Endangered species?
submittal for the, endangered species of the turtles and the mussels. So that is moving along. I still expect that Hoyle Gas and Electric will probably be the first sign of work out there when they do the horizontal boring under the river to take the gas main off the bridge and actually move it under the river.
Okay. Any questions about that from anyone? Okay. All right. Moving on to new business. Any update on COVID-19 issues here in town?
Town seems to be fairly stable. The state and the county-wise, the numbers are still creeping up slightly. Probably Hampden County, where I live, has some stronger issues, only because it has the city of Springfield in it, and their vaccination rates are low. It was interesting seeing an article a couple of days ago on the amount of hospitalizations, which have basically, for Bay State, which has 4 locations, has doubled in the last couple of weeks. And now, with schools going back in, with students coming back to college that have traveled, and, the end of summer where people have taken vacations, are coming back. I think we're all kind of taking an anxious look at, okay, will this have peaked again, or is it still going to keep climbing to, some extent?
Just a comment, I read recently where they assessed all the counties in Massachusetts, and the only one that's not at high risk is Franklin County. And that's a change for Hampshire, because I believe it was Hampshire and Franklin County a couple of weeks ago. So just want to bring that to everyone's attention.
Sliding in there, okay. Well, we'll keep an eye out on that, and hopefully we can keep a stable situation without any real spikes. That would be good. Okay, CARES Act update.
And Chris and I have been working on this. We still have a few reports we want to go through to make the number more finite. It would appear that with not only some of the items that we haven't utilized yet, but the change in the FEMA to 100% reimbursement, which takes away some of the items that previously would have been at least 25% CARES eligible, are now 0% eligible through CARES, that we will have approximately $130,000 or $140,000 to reprogram. So I'm working with our rep at the down in Boston to find out, okay, with those changes to the FEMA updates, what is actually left that is 100% reimbursable, so we can concentrate our efforts into those areas for anything we need or want to reprogram between now, or ask for new between now and the end of December.
Yeah. No, we've got to get that finalized certainly before the middle of September and get a clue on that, because if we do have to order things and we get a backlog like last year where things were not available, then, we definitely don't want to be purchasing things at the last minute like last time, so we want to be ahead of it. And I think we had a huge couple of invoices come in that had not been previously billed, and so that knocked down our ongoing, where are you, why haven't you used the money
Right.
kind of thing, and that helped a lot. So I think we're right around that 140,000 mark to reprogram.
Can I ask a question about that? So that has to be used or received by the end of December?
Correct.
Oh, that was actually an either-or question.
Oh.
It has to be ordered or received or both?
I'll go back and take a look at it, but I would think that it has to be ordered and received by
That's the way it was
the end of
last year.
December, yes.
Yeah.
And last time, I think there was money built into it to help people with rent and also to help people with food.
Right.
I'm pretty sure that most of the food was provided either to the cupboard or to gift cards for the Good Eats to Go, I think.
Yes.
What about, have people accessed the rental assistance?
No, they have not as of yet.
Not
Well,
yet.
we need to get the word out about that.
Yeah.
I mean, I really.
I know, through the housing folks, I mean, there is $6,000 that we had put aside for from the CARES Act to help people that are behind on their rent or their mortgage. And I gather that there are other programs that are helping people out such that we have not had much of a demand here. But that is still an eligible item, I believe, to be accessed.
It
So to the extent that, we had seen them drawing down on the 6,000, I mean, my inclination would have been to increase the amount, but so far we are not seeing it. And I know it's posted on our website. I don't know what else the Housing Authority has done to publicize that, honestly.
I don't think much, but we can get on that.
Oh, yeah, I mean, put it in the
Absolutely,
laundry
yeah.
room at the rental apartments in town, like, I think we really need to get the word
And it's
out.
for rent and mortgage
I believe.
assistance?
And that's a category that actually carries forward into, ARPA. So, so far what
Yeah.
we've seen
Yeah.
for activity
Yeah.
in CARES, it kind of, would be an inkling that, okay, maybe that's probably not a category, we'll think about with our ARPA, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, but I think, to the extent you'd mentioned the flyers that are there for the community meeting for the HPP, I mean, maybe something like that could be talked about at the next Housing Authority meeting to just get the word out
The
more.
word out, absolutely.
Because I mean, it's not something Southampton has usually done, so I think people would not look to Southampton first and foremost to say, hey, look, I'm behind on my rent, can I get some help? But we've tried to put the word out, I think, through the school and various others to let people know, if you know of people that are struggling, please reach out and contact somebody. Let us know, so that could be perhaps something provided. There may be some more additional food assistance. I'm not sure I know the COA was still going to be doing a couple of things with their, possibly with their grab-and-go lunch type things or something. Or the cupboard maybe. So there's a couple things that might still take up some, but that won't eat up a lot of money. That's a few $1,000s at most. So,
Can I ask, is it an application, a written request?
Yeah, it's-
How does one
you have to take a look
access
on the website.
this? On the website?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's a whole program that I
It's a
think
whole
the Housing
program
Authority.
With directions on there?
Yeah,
Okay.
they aligned with, gosh, I'm going to say Community Action?
Okay,
Huh?
I'll look
Does that
into
sound
it.
right? Huh? No. No, it's a group out of Easthampton. Am I not right on that?
It's either out of Easthampton or Northampton.
Yeah, one or the other.
It's Northampton.
Blanking the name right now, but it's on our website, so
Okay,
it's
I'll
there
look
on
at
the homepage. So just, maybe whenever there is another housing meeting, just bring that up and see if we can maybe think of ways to get more publicity about that. I don't know. Just seems like there ought to be some people that might need that.
I
So
agree.
I'm a little surprised that it hasn't even had any takers. Yeah.
Can I ask one more question about the CARES Act?
Mhm.
I saw on the warrant, are we still paying for case tracing?
Yes.
Okay, so that, I thought it only went to the end of the fiscal year. Was that renewed?
It's one of the items that we'll have to transfer monies for. It's still eligible. But the original amount that was programmed for it, I believe, and would have run out at the, I think, end of June or July.
Right, so now it's still getting payment, I mean, we're still paying for it, and it's coming out of funds that haven't been allocated from CARES? How's that working? And is the Board of Health getting reports? I don't know that we're doing as much case tracing as the past.
Right. The couple of meetings I've been to, there's not been a report in terms of numbers and activity. But I thought, my understanding was that the position was to continue, was funded through December 31st
Of this year.
of this year.
Not the contract that we
No,
signed.
the original
Well,
one was June 30th.
Yeah, there's two
I know,
different
originally it was
different
June,
pieces.
and then I
There's-
thought it
Yeah,
extended.
there's
Right,
the
so the-
contract that's in place, and then I will go back and double check on the amount, but I thought it was enough. I thought it was only enough for a year. I could be wrong. It could have been 18 months.
I think it was a year, and so I think if anything, they probably have to renew that contract if that's what they're doing, if they're continuing with contact tracing. Because I do think it went through June.
The contract did.
Yeah,
for
right.
the
through June.
individual,
So
so
to the
that should
extent
be
that they still
extended.
want to do that, it's still a CARES Act eligible activity. But, yeah, they need to be sure that they're following their own procedures and have a contract in place.
Right.
So amending that or
So if they
extending.
didn't do that already,
Yeah,
they should redo that contract instead of
Right.
just having it be an automatic.
right.
Chris?
Yes,
If I could, I know Francine's the liaison, but school starts tomorrow. And I know all our plans have been preferenced on the fact that we've been assured by the Board of Health that the contact tracing will stay in place until the end of this year. And that's what our RNs are counting on, so.
Yeah. No, I'm sure.
I'm
It's just a
just-
matter of doing the paperwork and getting it correct. Because they started the
Okay.
contact tracing last year without a contract in place. And then there were payments made before a contract took place. And so they had to go back and amend the contract to make it retroactive to
So
date
it's
X.
more of a question to make sure all the paperwork's
Just to
in
get the
order.
paperwork. If they're gonna, it's still an eligible CARES thing, and it's certainly if it's been agreed on by the school, and it's, I'm not
Okay.
disputing any of that. It's more for the Board of Health to get their paperwork in place so that they, if it has expired, which I think it has,
I do too.
they need to do the proper thing to amend it, extend it, whatever. So,
Get reports.
yeah. Yeah, and I have no
I mean,
idea
we're sending.
what level of
money.
reporting they get on the contact tracing. I really don't know. So, I know we don't ever ask for names or any of that kind of thing, but just to get an idea of how many incidents somebody has had to trace and whether they've originated in town or they've been secondary to town because it was somebody else. Anyway. Okay, next, American Rescue Act. We're still waiting for magical guidance. These people
Yeah,
are
they're-
just
It's
ridiculous.
supposed to be due about any time.
Yeah.
I mean, so far, the categories we know that are eligible are the infrastructure
Yeah.
of water, sewer, broadband. We know that we can use it for any required trainings that the police department has to do due to the Police Reform Act. It is eligible for food, for rent or mortgage help.
So I think what we had talked about doing was having a meeting after the holidays, getting a meeting with at least the 2 or 3 sector people, like the sewer water folks,
Right.
getting them and maybe 1 or 2 people from the tech committee, getting together and just having a brainstorming meeting to start with what we know is possible in terms of the categories under ARPA, just get those initial ideas flowing to us, and then once we get the broader information, then that could be a broader discussion, but at least to get something started. I assume that the water commissioners have a list of things that they would like to get done, and we could, start talking about whether any of those would be eligible. et cetera. So I think, once we, maybe on a week in between, in between select board meetings, maybe we could find a time to at least start that brainstorming meeting, maybe probably during the day, probably easier for them during their workday, I don't know, than an evening meeting, but we'll figure that out. But we need to start making some headway on that. We've been given some funds, and we need to just, we're just not getting any detail as to how these things have to be spent at this point in time, in terms of any, level of detail that we need.
But everything I've heard, other than the, like, infrastructure, I just feel like we should go back to what were set up as goals back when, like master plan, and also what the select board has earmarked as goals. Because I think this is the significant amount of money. We've gotten 2 payments now, and I just feel like we should have a broader discussion. Like, food's great, rent's great, mortgage is great, but we still have $130,000-$140,000 that can be used towards that. So I just think that we should really have a broader discussion about trying to make a good dent on some of the things that the townspeople or the select board have said should be priorities.
Okay,
That's a good idea.
okay. All right. Next, we're up to the collaborations and cost efficiencies alternative discussions.
Do we not have revenue and expenditures?
Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss one? I'm sorry. Oh, I'm sorry. I marked it, sorry. Ed, update on revenue and expenditures. I don't believe there's anything in our package, right?
Nothing in the
No,
packet.
the last expenditure report would be up to date, and then for revenues, the last one that was sent out was up to date. We do have to set up some revenue accounts there's one packet that has not been posted to the revenue report, which needs those. So that is one of the priorities that I have set for Regina before she leaves, to make sure that that those revenue accounts are set up so we can finish off the 21 revenues.
Okay. And that would include the end-of-year transfers and everything, so, okay.
Right, and what I told her were at least my priorities were to create those revenue accounts so we can finish off the 21 revenues, to do the departmental transfers for fiscal 21, to do the encumbrances for fiscal year 22, and to finish entering the fiscal year 22 budget.
So with all that going on, could we possibly just say now that we know we're going to take a pass on this subject on the 14th, but set an expectation on the 28th?
Yeah.
That we
Yeah, I mean, what,
we would have that report, because, I mean, if she's
Oh,
got to get those accounts up by the 9th, then that, no pressure to get it done by the 14th, but if by the 28th,
Well, I would expect that they would be ready for the 14th.
I'd
Yeah.
be perfectly happy if they were.
Yeah.
But
Well,
because we
let's-
really need to see the June 30th
Yeah.
end.
yeah. Now, let's aim for the 14th, and this has been kind of dragging on, and if we can make this happen as part of her last time here and working with Ed, I think we need to get a handle on where we end up at the end of the fiscal year, so that we know what's going on, especially on the revenue side. I know Concom and others are waiting to see where their accounts are. They're trying to balance their own accounts and, wanting to be clear with their own fiscal year accounts. So I think let's put that as getting us a report that is complete for September 14th.
Is there an opportunity or funding to increase her hours in the next 2 weeks? Instead of 24, to provide additional hours?
She already offered to work later into the evening, and I've already said, yes, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay, good.
That'd be good. Okay. Okay, thanks. Jumping back onto the Collaboration and Cost Efficiencies Alternatives Committee, I don't know if we had any further thoughts about this. This was just, again, the first iteration of a purpose statement and membership and meeting frequency. I would like us to be able to move forward on it. We don't have to make a final decision tonight, but I would like us to at least start thinking about when we would like this to start. September is here, and we seem to have a very busy September. So my own thought would be October, that we would start having a monthly meeting. But what that's going to entail is that just to reiterate what we had put here, we had, I think we ended up with 12 members finally. I had miscounted or something in the early ones. So we had 2 of whom may be from the select board, 3 town employees, 1 from the finance committee, 1 from Norris HRHS school committee, 1 from the planning board, the town administrator, and 3 town residents with career experience, relevant career experience in financial management or human resources appointed by the select board. And then the idea with the town employees was that they were grouped into clusters, and there would be 1 person from each of those clusters self-selected by that group, and coming to a meeting representing the needs, wants, desires, opinions of others in their little subset cluster. So I guess my question is how to make that happen. Are we comfortable moving forward with this? Do we still want to tweak this some more? Because otherwise what we could do would be to put out some deadlines again for these mini clusters to at least have a meeting amongst themselves and figure out who's going to be their designee to the bigger meeting, so we could get started. And I would also say that select board would have to reach out and try to reach out with and come to a meeting with at least a couple of suggestions of town residents that would be important people probably to invite to this kind of a committee. So I don't know where we are. Are we ready to start with this? Is it too early? Thoughts, Rini?
I don't think it's too early at all, and I think getting people at least thinking about nominating someone there from their department or committee is good. I think it might be a little narrow in the public one.
Okay.
I mean, let me just give an example. Mike Rosenberg, Matt Rowland, Mary Siroak from finance, like those people at all, they don't necessarily have a job, or I think it says career experience. So I'm not saying that I'm nominating them or anything, but this is just an example. I think it would just, relevant.
Take out the word career, maybe.
Yeah, maybe just relevant experience or
Relevant
something.
experience, yeah, okay.
Just so that, and I also think there have been problems in the past when we just reached out and only offered to certain people. I think we have to cast a wide net and say, a new committee is starting and this is what the charge is. Is there anybody that's interested? I think in the past, there were problems when people volunteered and then were never contacted, or they came in and there was not a really good process for selecting them. So I just think we should be careful about the process.
Okay.
I think it's very important to say that the role people are going to play would be to identify cost-effective efficiencies and alternate means of doing something, as opposed to coming in with a list of needs and wants. I mean, this is really about finding different ways to do things,
Right.
so that we can, kind of get some relief from some of the financial burden just by finding ways of saving money. So that has to be the commitment, not again, not this is what I need, kind of discussion.
So repeat that beginning part again. So people coming to the meeting with the mindset of getting involved in problem solving.
Yes. And identifying alternatives to achieve cost efficiencies and financial stability. It's a very important function.
Okay.
And
Yeah, John?
I would add in there, only because it's silent, so I'd rather it not be left up to interpretation, but is your expectation of this is these would all be public meetings? Publicly posted, or is it going to be in secret in some room somewhere? It just doesn't say it.
Oh, okay. No,
No.
these, I would certainly expect these to be public meetings, yeah.
Right, so that we'd post them 48 hours in advance, open to
Right.
the public, and then the committee can make its own rules about participation. But
Yeah.
I think the more
In terms of
transparent,
anybody else coming, exactly.
the more
Sure.
transparent we can be.
Yep, no, absolutely. That is part of the goal here. So the idea would be to have public meetings, yes, and meet once a month. If we could agree on whatever time of day, let alone day, would be the next challenge probably. But, so back to your point, Rini, would it be an idea that select board could reach out and everybody come back with no more than 2 maybe, or I don't know. I mean, reach out to people to see if they're interested, first of all,
Well, I think maybe having a one-page sort of
write-up.
write-up and
Kind-
then provide it to the committees or departments that,
Mhm.
you know, and how to, you know, like propose, how to send it out to the public at large, I guess.
Okay,
But I think if we're, you know, saying one representative from these departments, one representative from this, one representative from finance, then we send it to the chairs of those committees, we send it to those department heads, and say by X date, can you please put forth names?
okay.
And I think for the town piece, for the 3 residents of the town that wouldn't necessarily, I mean, they may fall into one of those other categories, but of those 3 pieces, I agree 100%, there's got to be a process in how we do it, but I'd rather not sit here and nominate 2 people. I mean, there's 6,000 people in
Yeah,
town.
yeah.
You know, I know I look forward to Ed's phone calls and whenever there's a drought issue or snow. So do we have the capability of email notification through the code red to all the citizens that have signed up, that we could do so? This is available on the website. Here's to where this is new. Make
Yeah.
something, open it up for a week. How do you submit the applications with a narrative as possibly as why do you want to be? And then maybe as a group of 5 of us, we go through the 4,200 responses. 3 people.
That'd be great, that'd be
you know,
No,
And I'm sure Tammy will help us with Facebook. But-
Sure. No, I think that's a valid idea. I mean, the challenge is always to get the word out. I'm never
Yeah.
convinced how many people really look at the website to understand what's there. And even though we've got a certain number of people that follow us here or look at the meeting after the meeting's over, I don't know how else to get the word out. So,
Yeah,
through,
and when that's available, I can send it to, as Chair of Norris, I can have Eliza send it out to all the parents within Norris.
okay, that'd be a good idea.
The vast majority of them are all residents.
Yeah,
It's just another way to
okay.
get the info out there.
All right. So what we would want to do is to have more of, this is sort of our own internal structure in a way. So what we would want would be more of a narrative to explain what's happening and why we would want to do it. Okay?
And my last comment, and then I'll be quiet.
Yeah. No, that's fine.
Should we put that the goal is to have the potential final impact not in this December's budget, but a year from here, if we're not going to be starting until October?
Well, we're,
Because in December, we'll start the budget. Now, maybe there'll be some easy,
There might be a
low-lying
couple,
fruit that we can grab.
might be a couple
But
simple things,
looking-
but yeah.
Looking for kind of the detailed
Yeah.
report over a 12-month period that we would incorporate, not this budget, but
Right.
the following budget.
but I think we're really looking for a long-term plan,
Yep.
you know, eventually out of this, but
Yeah.
certainly any immediate relief that we can get in this or next fiscal year is important, but
Yeah.
going forward, we need to have a
It also lets
more
people,
comprehensive plan.
it lets people know that this is probably going to be at a minimum of
Yes.
16 months.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. All right, all right. And to your point, reading about sort of thin on the public, would you recommend then having 4 people from the public rather than the 3 or whatever we had
No,
here?
not necessarily. I just wanted to
Okay.
just not say that the criteria had to be that somebody was
Okay.
in that career.
Okay. But still, somebody with financial management or human
Yeah,
resource
definitely.
management, I think, is still
I agree.
valid. Okay, so the next step then would be to draft some sort of a narrative to go along with this to be able to be distributed. Is that something you would delegate to me to do, or would you like to do somebody else volunteer and we come back and review it at the next meeting? How do we want to handle that? Just so that we're all clear on what we're doing.
Well, I'm willing to take a shot at drafting it, but then I'd like to work with someone before.
Okay.
You know, another set of eyes for me always
I
gives
can
me a
help you,
different
Francine.
perspective.
Okay, Joy's volunteering to help you?
Good.
All right. Okay, so we'll leave that to you guys and then to bring it to us for the 14th? Is that okay?
Okay.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you very much. Okay, moving on. Let's see where.
You all can expect a call from me.
All right. Anything on the Greenway update, Ed? I don't know if there is.
Not other than what I had put forward in my
Yeah,
administrator's report that I was reaching out
right.
to Mass Trails to see if that could be extended for an additional year.
And do we know if through our legal folks, if they've already reached out to the railroad itself yet, or anything like that?
They were putting a few pieces in place. My understanding was that they would be actually making contact with them for the specifics within the next week.
Okay. All right. Any questions on that? If not, we'll move on to the next item, which is the department head laptop deployment update. We're still deploying laptops. What's
Yes.
happening?
Well, I'm getting frustrated with it because we actually had 2 dates, which would have been last Tuesday and today, to do laptop deployment. And when the technician came out last week to do it, he didn't get here until about noontime, and he started on the police chief's laptop, and it took him just about the rest of the afternoon to do that one. When the technician left, the laptop was working fine. Then Ian took it home and used it remotely and brought it back in, and the profiles had changed, and then he started having issues with it. So I started complaining about that, and instead of coming back today, the technician came back yesterday, and his first charge was to finish and make the police chief's laptop the way it should be, which it seems like he was able to do, but it took him most of the afternoon again, and he didn't get here till close to noon. So there was 2 days assignment, which I expected to get 6 to 8 laptops actually deployed and installed, was 1.
So when are they coming back again?
We're waiting for 2 more dates from him now.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So we at least have 3 or 4 that I'm aware of, right? I mean,
What's that?
we have at least 3 or 4 more to
Oh,
deploy.
we have 7 more to deploy.
7 more.
The assessors is waiting for theirs.
Yep.
Right, they were supposed to be today, but
Yep. Well, we have to bring this up to the tech committee tomorrow night too, and I mean, I don't know what they can do about it. I mean, they're not in charge of it, obviously, but I mean,
no.
I mean, David Rooks has been working with you, I know, to try and push these guys along, but I'm definitely disappointed in the level of service. I mean, just because we bought all the laptops from this company, and one would think that they would be interested in getting them up and rolling for us and giving
Right.
us some priority, so.
Yeah, I know it's a busy time of year with all the schools starting up and they're doing that, but
Yeah.
like I say, I haven't been real thrilled the last.
Have they been paid
this
in
one.
full?
No,
What's that?
They have not been paid in, well, they've been paid for
I'm
the
just
laptops.
asking if they've been paid in full.
Oh, well, they've been paid for the laptops, they haven't been paid for the
Oh.
installation that they have done so far.
Yeah, it doesn't,
Okay, well,
no more.
I don't know what else we can do to try and, I assume you're dealing with the head of the company or somebody to make this happen, right? So it's-
Absolutely.
So, I mean, it's, you know,
In fact, David Rooks and I had a, go-to video meeting with them a week and a half ago to set up the 2 dates that we had.
okay. All right, well, this will be a topic tomorrow night, I'm sure, at the tech committee too, so. Okay, next one, employee short-term disability extension approval. Do you want to just address that briefly? It's just something we have to sign.
Yes, and then you have it in your packets, and we had an employee that was out on approved short-term disability, that this is actually an extension of about 2.5 weeks, extension for additional physical therapy that is required. So my recommendation would be that the select board approve that extension.
Okay, could I have a motion to that effect?
I'll make it so moved.
Okay, second, please.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other business that cannot wait until the next
We got to appoint Ed as the signer for the account.
regular meeting? Yep. Thank you.
I just want to say tomorrow, good luck to all the kids starting school on September 1st for a healthy and happy Happy school year.
And remember what the red flashing lights on a big yellow vehicle mean.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yes.
if they haven't seen in a while, exactly.
You're gonna get really frustrated because they don't stop coming down.
So, okay, so, two things maybe. Did you want to do the
There's
one
there's-
PCF?
There's one PCF which is in your packet, but when I was copying over the list from the PPB website, I did not add one in addition to those. So there's a PCF for Dennis Senical, the water technician in here, which would be retroactive to July 1st, 2021. And that should have an amended salary or hourly rate. In this case, it's an hourly rate. It was put in at $29.79. The amended rate, which would be a 4% increase, should be $29.22. So I would ask that the select board do that one under any other business.
Is that 4% or 6%?
That's 4%. The $29.79, which was what it was originally put in for, was the 6%.
So now it's reduced to 29.22,
Okay, I don't have that.
at the very last,
Okay.
on the back.
The one I have
What-
says
what-
29.79.
What's before us is
79.
29.79, that's what we tabled. So I
Right.
believe the select board has the authority to amend it, and that's
Right.
what we're being asked to do,
Okay.
amend it down to the 4%, which would be 29.22.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, this is the one we had tabled that's been around for, yeah, almost a month probably, yeah, maybe. Okay, so with that explanation, did you find it?
Yeah, I looked at it.
Okay, all right. Could I have a motion if we're ready to do that?
I'll approve the amended amount
The amended amount of,
for Dennis Senical to 29.22,
22.
retroactive to July.
retroactive to 7/1.
Okay,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Who seconded that?
John?
John? All right, now, other business that can't wait. There was the idea that we might need to reappoint Ed as the interim accountant for a short amount of time.
I'll make a motion to approve Ed as the temporary accountant and be able to sign until the end of September.
That should be fine. Thank
Okay.
you.
Motion on the floor, second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Discussion.
Yeah.
So I get that it's to the end of September, but should the other caveat be until a successor is named in the event that a town accountant accepts the position before the end of September?
Okay.
Know what I mean?
Would
Be
we,
careful
Yeah.
with your wording.
Well,
Accepts or is in place?
uh-huh,
Is sworn into office.
There we go.
He's sworn
Yeah.
into office.
okay, yeah, okay, is sworn in,
Yeah,
okay. So September 30th or the date
when it
when the new person
is
takes,
sworn in,
is sworn in.
whichever happens first.
Whichever happens first. Okay? Is that doable, Ed? Is that right?
Absolutely.
Okay, we'll have a second to that amended motion then, please.
I'll second that.
All right. Any more discussion? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Could I just say that I appreciate Ed, I know that we've had a long time without an accountant and an assistant, and also with all the COVID additional things. There's been a lot of criticism about not having an accountant, and we haven't been at liberty to tell all the different things that have been happening behind the scenes, but I just want to say thank you for all you're doing.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely.
And you wouldn't have to worry about, even if you hadn't put in that caveat of until someone else is sworn into the position, because as soon as someone is in that position, if that wasn't in place, I'd be resigning in a second, so I didn't have to do that. So.
And I'm guessing it's on your front burner.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
All right,
that one would be.
good. All right, thanks, guys. We'll keep on moving.
Thank you.
We've got several personnel change forms to deal with.
Would it be appropriate to take them up as a batch,
Um,
with the exception of the resignation?
I'd like to talk about
I
at
think-
least the election workers separately, if you don't mind.
Yeah, and I think the assessors, was there any additional, that was an emergency one, is that right? I'm just want
There's both an emergency and a regular.
Irregular.
Assessors, emergency.
to, all right. Let's take them in mini groups. So the assessors, and then the fire, and then the election workers, that's basically, it won't take long, I'm
I'll
sure.
make a motion to approve Janine Domina as the emergency and also interim assessor's office. Official title is increase her hours up until 16 hours, I believe, per week,
It's going from 12 to 16 hours,
up to 16
up to 16? All right,
in the assessor's office.
all right,
I'll second that.
all right. Any discussion? There's just one thing on the interim, when they had mentioned for 12 weeks, so they're doing this through November 12th, 2021,
Yeah.
apparently. And this is staying at the same rate.
Same rate,
So,
yep.
working more hours, but staying at the same rate.
Yeah, just to help cover the office more.
Okay, all right. All right,
Yeah, the only thing I'm not opposed to this, I would just point out that by doing this, we're acknowledging that we're gonna have to transfer funds.
Yep, and I think they
Right.
included that in
Yes.
there.
mm-hmm. Okay. And, well, I guess I have a question on that. Why would funds have to be transferred, given that we're at the beginning of a fiscal year?
Because it's
Well,
over
because-
budget for the line.
Budgeted for X number of
Yeah.
hours, you're increasing the hours.
Got it,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay, very good, thank you. All right, we had a motion and a second, I believe. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Next, a pair for the fire department. We have, let's see, Colin Dearborn as an on-call as needed, a part-time, non-benefited firefighter, and Russell Hatch II as a part-time, non-benefited firefighter, EMT, as needed. Could I have a motion regarding those two?
So move.
Okay. A second,
Not
please?
the original or the second? Francine?
I'll be the second.
All right.
Okay, all right. Any discussion on those?
I have a question about one of them.
Yep, go ahead.
So this person lives in Munson, so I'm just curious if it's on call. I know that where I work, it's like there's an expectation that you not exceed a certain, like you have to be able to respond within a certain period of time. So I don't know what the story is. I mean, I'm sure John has a plan for that. I'm just curious. Just does seem like if it's an on-call position, is that a consideration? Anybody know? Do you know?
Don't know. And that would be for the person who is the EMT.
Firefighter, EMT.
Firefighter and EMT.
Firefighter, EMT,
Right.
on call as needed.
Right, all these,
All of them
other
are on call as
than
needed.
the chief himself, which is a full-time position, all of the rest of the, whether they're firefighters or firefighter EMTs or firefighter paramedics, are basically either part-time or on-call part-time. They're all as needed.
Right, but I think the question was in terms of distance, in terms of the ability to get here quickly, if there was a radius. Is that, if I understood your question?
Yeah.
I'm speculating here, but I'm guessing he would be, he or she, who is it? He would be assigned regular shifts to cover,
Yeah.
but probably would not be called in after midnight if it was their off night because of the distance. Like they had an actual structure fire.
Yeah,
But he's probably looking to cover an 8-hour
Regular.
shift on the ambulance.
right.
Right, or as an on-call, they could be basically not working, but stationed in the mobile building next to the fire station.
Well, basically, it just says will not affect the budget, adds to the number of folks available in
Right.
the event of a fire, so,
Correct.
okay.
Yeah, I would just appreciate if you mentioned that to him, though. I'm just curious if we, like, obviously, I'm not gonna, I mean, I'm gonna approve it, but I'm just curious if there's some sort of rule or that someone that lived that distance would only be used, you know, not just on call only. I'm just curious.
I can find out for
Yeah.
you.
It'd be
Okay.
great.
But we have a motion and a second, I believe, so are we ready to vote? If so, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. And then next, we have PCFs for 2 election wardens and a variety of election workers. Now, just refresh my memory, we had appointed these people a meeting or two ago. Am I not correct on that?
We
And
appointed these people a couple of meetings ago.
Yeah.
but
now we're putting them on
You may
payroll.
recall probably about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, we did get the ruling that these people were previously paid as, on a vendor warrant.
Right,
And we got word that, up from the IRS that they had to be paid on a payroll warrant.
correct, okay.
Well, once we made that change, not only do we appoint them, it's followed up now because it's a payroll warrant with PCFs. So this was something a year and a half ago we would not have seen.
Okay,
We would have only seen the first part.
We'd only seen the appointment, correct?
yeah, okay. So a couple of these, I guess I'm not sure if these are just, if these are crossed out or not, but we have, let's just start at the beginning. We have,
Can I just make a
I'm sorry.
general comment? Can I
Yeah.
say something? We actually, this was the first year that we actually followed the rules. No fault of anybody else in the past, but the process for hiring election workers was not done the way it's supposed to be done in the state of Massachusetts. So we had a document that we used as a guide that Ed reached out to the party chairs, Republican and Democrat, got names, and then no later than June 30th, the registrar submitted the names to the select board. So we've been following actually for the first time. In addition, what Ed said was now it's part of the operating budget, so now we're getting these PCFs. But I'm not really sure, I was told that at the last election that somebody wasn't called. Like, the person told me personally that she never got a call to work the election. So I just want to say that there's 2 positions here that are election warden, which I don't know what that is, and we didn't vote or recommend that anybody be a warden versus election worker. I don't know if that's our job to do that, or if that's what Lucy put forth, to be election warden versus worker. The whole point of this, given our voting rights discussion in the country right now, is that the process is fair and somewhat equitable.
Yep.
And I think both of the people that are selected as warden are from the Republican Party. I just feel like I don't personally feel comfortable voting on this without some input from Lucy and a commitment that there will be a process for hiring these folks that's fair and equitable, and that there's an understanding and discussion about what's the difference between a warden and worker, and how is that decision made. We're not having an election anytime soon, so I don't really feel like we have a lot of, so I'm just going to ask if we could consider tabling this and get Lucy's input on this, and commitment to actually have a system where if the whole point of this is to have it be fair, and you start by reaching out to the party chairs for names, then I want assurances that the process is also going to be carried out fairly.
and were these all the people that we had appointed? It seems like we have here 2 wardens and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 workers. It seemed like there were more than that we appointed, but
Total of 7, sounds about right.
or maybe that is the 7 with these 2 here?
Do you know the distinction? I mean, I know what the warden is, I looked it up. It's the person that oversees
Yes.
all of the election workers.
Right.
How was that decision made?
Yep.
What's the distinction between the 2?
Is that anything that the registrars do, or no?
I would follow, it probably is something that the registrars do, but
If we could just understand the
I would want that
process.
confirmed, just like Greenie would.
Okay, if you could just get that information from Lucy, or have her come and speak to that next time, that would be great. Do you mind?
No? Okay, so
Okay.
you want to postpone all of
Yeah.
these then?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay. Okay, any opposition to that? We'll hold off on this?
No, I'm not opposed to it. The only thing I would ask is, since we are going to propose this, could I get a copy, and maybe Joy would like it as well, of whatever procedure Rainey just referenced with the chairs and that, so at least I can understand the process that's supposed to be followed?
Great, yep.
Thanks.
Yeah, I can tell you, it's
Yeah.
Mass General Law, Chapter 54, Section 12. You want to make a note of it?
Well, that's, again, I don't have it in front of me, but that sounds like how you select the people within the registrar's office, not how how you select the election workers. The election workers are usually under the authority of the town clerk. So if I could just see whatever is being referenced, so I could read it and make sure I understand.
I'll send it out to you.
Okay, that'd be great, thanks.
Thank you.
And I guess there was confusion too, because it's got a one-year appointment as needed, but it looks like it's crossed off.
Right.
So I guess I wasn't clear that the marks on the back of these?
Yeah, on everyone but one,
Yeah,
the term is crossed
It's an
off.
unusual process, and the one-year appointment would probably work, because the process is to send out to the chairs of the two committees, just like you do for a board of registrars. They may or may not suggest any names for this, which get forwarded along to the town clerk and the board of registrars. And then, and I'm trying to remember the exact dates, I think it's not before July 15th nor after August 10th shall the select board appoint the election workers. So basically, I took the fact that, okay, if the select board can't appoint after August 10th, then
15th.
the term starts on August 10th and basically ends on August 10th.
Well, we did appoint before August, it's actually the 15th. It says, "No later than June 30th, the registrar shall
Word
submit
was
to the
wrong.
select board the names of the person." So I have the whole sequence here, and it's August. If the select board fails to make an appointment by August 15th, the registrar shall appoint election officers from the list of party members submitted by the party chairs. So we were all within the dates. I mean, I think up till now, I think we've followed for the first time what's the way it's supposed to go. I just have questions about the final PCFs in terms of the way they were decided
Broken
upon.
out.
Yeah,
Okay. All right, then let's put it on the agenda for the next meeting
okay.
and get clarity for that. Okay. With that, there's one more PCF, I believe, and this is a resignation. Richard Holman, the COA van driver. Resignation was effective, I believe, back in June, is that right? Last working date, last date on payroll was June 10th.
The motion approved is the resignation, Richard Holman.
Okay,
Question for discussion, or I'll second for
Second.
discussion.
okay, yep.
Under the reason for change, it doesn't say resignation, it says separation, so that implies termination. Saying that's what the form says.
Yeah, I think there were.
Reason for change,
I think there were
separation.
personal considerations, John.
So if it really should be a resignation,
Yes.
then
Yeah, okay.
the form should be up, because the form implies.
Which part of the form are you looking at?
He's reading here, he's right, it's where it says resignation, separation, or
Yep.
retirement. It was correct. Separation morally less means at our invitation,
Right,
Right,
as
Where
opposed to resignation.
resignation for personal reasons.
Right.
so this is really a resignation, right? So, okay,
Well, I'm assuming
That's
so.
our understanding, yes.
okay,
So I would just want to change the form, so 10 years from now, when somebody looks at this,
yeah,
nobody believes that Mr.
Okay.
Holman was terminated.
good point.
Well, and the other thing, if we look at the other form, the separation form, it says "other" is checked.
Yeah, it,
So we need to
Yeah,
get it cleared up.
yeah, the second one, I mean, why not put resignation on the second form as well?
Yep.
So,
Either way, I'm happy to accept it. I just think the two forms are in
yeah,
conflict
no, I
with
agree,
each
the
other.
form should be correct wherever they should be there, whether this is just simply resignation, which we think it is. Do we need to go ahead and approve it tonight, but then have Ed check this with Joan first, and then,
I already talked about that today. I think
Oh,
we could just
sorry.
accept it as a resignation.
Oh, accept it as a-
Change the terminology.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right,
Okay.
okay, fine. All right, so with that in mind, I think we had the motion and the second.
I'm sorry, I talked to the chair.
Uh-huh.
Janet.
Okay, all right, fine. Okay, so with that, are we okay to go ahead and approve this resignation then?
As modified on both?
Yes, with the forms modified to indicate resignation. Of course,
Yep.
check the right box.
I'm good with that.
Okay. Could I have a motion, a vote, please? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, so done. Okay, that's the end of all of our PCFs, I believe. If I've missed any, let me know. We have a few warrants. Francine, would you like to read those out?
Okay, we have a vendor warrant W22-7 that included the quarterly assessment to Hampshire Regional in the amount of $1,395,301.81. We have a payroll warrant P22-8 for $242,049.28. We have a correction to the payroll warrant 22-8C for $2,816.25. We have a payroll deduction for 22-8 for $39,053.79, and a payroll deduction correction PD 22-8C for $342.08.
Okay. Any questions on those? Yeah? John?
Well, I'm wondering why corrections were done to payroll warrants after the fact.
I believe that
It's
someone
not a
was-
correction, it's an addition.
addition, it was omitted, it's basically the same, yes. It was an omission on the payroll warrant, correct? On the original,
Correct.
well, it's a correction. I mean, it's a
I
correction,
hear
it's
you.
an addition,
Yeah.
yes.
It's an
And
addition, yeah.
if you want more specifics, darn school department.
Okay? I'm sure there's a checklist and a workflow to ensure it doesn't happen. I'm not in that office anymore.
Okay. All right. So with that, no other documents needing signature, no minutes to approve tonight. Any update on any of the pending items? I will be bringing back the naming rights one that I threw on here a while ago. I'll bring it back with more clarity and just information on the original request we had, and then we can take that up at another meeting, but I just wanted to not lose sight of it. Any updates, Ed? If not, on the green community or charter building or
No.
nothing? Okay. All right, calendar, select board meetings September 14th and 28th. And with that, we will be moving into executive session and not returning to open session. And we'll be going into executive session per MGL Chapter 30A, Section 21A3, to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body, and the chair so declares, and this is for the Highway Department. So with that, we'll declare the meeting adjourned the open meeting adjourned at 9 o'clock, but let's have a motion to go
Not
into,
returning.
and not returning to open session, a motion to go into an executive session.
So moved.
Okay, a second, please.
Second.
Have a roll call vote.
Lumber, aye.
Fishman, aye.
Grogan, aye.
Piper, aye.
Fowles, aye. Okay, we will consider ourselves adjourned at 9 PM, and we'll get together in another 5 minutes or so. Good.